Patino,
Here.
Councilman Phillips,
Here.
Councilman Casella,
Here.
and Supervisor Thurston.
Here, everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome everyone. So at this point in time, I just want to make a few proposed changes with respect to the agenda, and nothing major, or actually what I had meant to have removed from the agenda was the discussion of the Senior Advisory Committee, and just put that in May along with the the Community Affairs Committee. There's an item here that's separate on number 7 for town park improvements. Since that's really related to Resolution 2021-64, then we can just combine it there so we don't have to repeat it. Also, I think probably at the new business, new consideration, we've discussed before that about the possibility of a workshop, based on whatever may be decided with respect to the reopening of Town Hall. Then I propose we discuss that at that point in time. That would be sometime in May. Also, Kevin has requested a couple minutes during discussion to just summarize the successful 5K and the unveiling of the memorial sign. And at the end of my just brief, hopefully brief comments this evening, then I'll say a few words to be joined by Bill about the passing of Vinnie Frances. He had a lovely service today. So with those few changes, and if anybody else has anything, I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item will be the acknowledgement of the minutes of our last meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So I want to welcome everyone here to our meeting again tonight. And I want to just give you a brief review of the COVID figures, because it's relevant to the recommendation that I'm going to be making to reopen Town Hall later on in our meeting. But the current numbers in the town of Wappinger as of, I guess, the last reported by the county is 53 active cases. You'll recall that during the peak at lockdown earlier last year, we had 56. This number has continued to be a decline. 1 month ago, actually, on the end of March, we were at around 120. On April 8th, we had 95 active cases. Then at the last board meeting on April the 12th, we had 82. The numbers at the county are also showing a continued good decline percentage-wise. At the peak of, I guess, I'd say the second peak, that was reached as high as 9%. Bill may have some other numbers, but I think it was right around there, Bill, 9% short of 10%. So really alarming at that time. 1 month ago, it was over 5% on the daily seven-day average. Then it's continued to drop down to around 2.5% at this point in time, and all the vital signs are continued good. Number of hospitalizations are continuing to decline. So with those numbers, we seem to be in a pretty good territory, based on what we had previously discussed. So we'll come back to that and discuss that later on in the meeting. To move ahead with our meeting, since we do have a number of things that are to be discussed. I'll save other comments for later on, during the specific motions. But now, I'd like to say a few words and then invite Councilman Beal, who knew Vinnie Frances, very, very well. I did not have really the fortune to meet him, but I did have a nice chance to talk with Gene this morning at the viewing, as well as his daughter, Michelle, and a lovely family. It was a lovely viewing with a lot of nice pictures to get to know him. But, Vinnie Frances was born back in 1931 and has spent basically his whole life in Wappinger area, the village where he was born, and became a very important part of our communities in that he served as town justice for the town of Wappinger, from 1962 until retiring in 1990. Also spent time of 14 years in the village as town justice, and about 5 years, I think it was, as a town councilman. In 2007 through 14, he was also appointed as acting village justice. So a real important part of the community in many ways. He was a vet, had served in the Korean conflict, a volunteer fireman, which is so important to our communities. In his case, it was W.T. Garner Engine, Company, and really led the charge very, very well in other community things. For example, he was a very active participant in the Rotary, which I had been until coming to the town, and hope to get active again, with them. I view them as being a very important cornerstone of the community. He loved his family, as also loved fishing and drawing, painting, as I understood from his family this morning, and raised 3 children in Wappinger Falls, and will be, I think, deeply missed. He looked very much at peace, and Gene said that's the way he had been, in even while suffering some in the last few years. So a real loss. I think what we'll do is we'll come back. We've lost a few great members of our community, and find some appropriate ways to memorialize them, going forward, as we've discussed about a couple of them generally in the past. So, Bill, would you like to say a few words?
Certainly, the Honorable Vinnie Frances, the guy was a legend in this town and the village. Probably one of the only individuals to hold both the town judiciary position and a village judiciary position. I will say that he was very active outside of his judiciary positions as well in the community, as you mentioned. Very well-rounded individual who really was always thinking about other people and stepping up in times of need. So certainly lived a full life. Obviously, his health was declining. Last I saw him was about a year or so ago, and medically he was having some challenges. But working with him here at the town, or working with him through his official capacity in the village, I also had the opportunity to work with him at weddings, where he would officiate weddings, and I would be the master of ceremonies at anywhere in the Hudson Valley. Most recently in the town of New Windsor, he was the officiator at Anthony's Pier 9. So that said, his name obviously will be memorialized in the village. They ceremonially named Reservoir Place in his honor a couple years ago. So Vinnie Frances Way, I believe it's called. So certainly we were very lucky to have an individual with his diverse foundation, being not only a town justice here in the town of Wappinger and a village justice in the village, but also as a town councilman. I believe he was a councilman during the time, potentially during the transitional time, when our town went from justices of the peace, who actually sat on the town board, to town councilman. And I believe he was right in that time period in the early 60s when we were at large prior to the ward system. And I see Jim shaking his head. So I think that he might have been probably the last remaining connection from that
that time period, justices of the peace to town councilmen. So certainly it's a very special situation there. So as I said to his wife and his family this morning, on behalf of Ward 1, of course, and the town of Wappinger, I know you were there, Supervisor, before I was. Certainly our thoughts and prayers and condolences, but most importantly, we were lucky to have Vinny Frances.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll say.
Would we like, anybody else have any comments that may have known him? Because if not, then I'd like to just have Bill and I would like to invite everybody for a moment of silence. Okay, let's bow our heads in remembrance, reflection of Mr. Frances. Thank you. And may you rest in peace, Vinny. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
The next item is we have a public hearing scheduled. This is for a resolution introducing the proposed local law 1 entitled Recreation Policy for Parkland Improvements. We've discussed this a lot before. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Mr. Clerk, Joe, do you have you received any comments with respect to this proposal? You're on mute.
There we go. No comments have been received on the website.
Okay, seeing no comments, do I have a motion to
I'll make a
close?
motion to close the public portion.
Okay.
Second.
Well, hold on a second.
Yes, Jim.
Open the public hearing.
Public
And this
hearing.
is not the public portion. The public hearing is on the
Yeah,
recreation law.
Public hearing, sorry if I.
Public hearing, my fault.
Yeah.
If I may, I think it'd be appropriate at this time to adjourn the public
To adjourn
hearing,
it, right.
because we're not in a position to adopt it right now, because associated with this local law is the establishment of the lists of recreation projects by resolution of the town board. So, and I think we were waiting for that workshop meeting to adopt that list. So, so based on that, there might be some changes made that the public may or may not comment on. But at this point in time, I think it would be appropriate to
Adjourn it.
adjourn the public hearing.
So I'll amend my motion before to adjourn this for a future date.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
I think an appropriate date to adjourn it to would be if we're having a second meeting in May.
Yes, right now.
Yeah, so I think the appropriate date to adjourn this to would be the second meeting in May, Joe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, as amended, we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is the public portion of the meeting. Do we have a motion to open the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Joe?
Yeah, no comments. No comments have been received from the website.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. A
Public portion.
Public portion.
Public portion.
Second.
Okay, there's motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing
I
none.
just wanted to see if Jim was paying attention, that's all.
Very good. Okay, so we'll move into discussions, but I like to invite Kevin, as I noted before. Kevin, would you like to give us update and just briefly tell us also about, I think, the bricks and some other things?
Right. I wanted to express my appreciation to the entire town board and all the auxiliary folks with respect to the 5K. It was terrific. Bill, thank you very much for your appearance and all of your assistance. And Jessica was a main part of getting it done. So we really appreciate everything that everybody did. The following day, everything went according to Hoyle, and it was like clockwork. Definitely appreciate the all the efforts in getting the town together to unveil the sign. I've ordered about 15 banners, and they should be coming in the first week of May. I'm hopeful. I've got about another 5 orders to put in. I've got probably about 6 orders for bricks, and I'm going to be negotiating with Steve Frazier about the bricks that he plans on doing at that one on Colonel Jesus, the one on my lane.
Mark.
Yeah, March. That's right. That was right on the tip of my tongue. So when we start doing the bricks there, I'm going to have to negotiate with Steve that we use the bricks that I would rather use, the same ones that are used at Schlatt House. That's all I have. We did very well on sponsorships and donations and registrations. I plan on using all of that over and above the operating expenses. For veterans' needs, I already have a couple of things, which I will issue a report on that so that everybody's aware of what I'm doing or what we're doing as a committee. It's everybody I speak with is on board. We've got more and more people wanting to take advantage of the banners and the bricks. So I thank the entire town board for everything that you folks have done. And that's all I have.
Kevin, where can people get the forms for the banners?
The forms for the banners and the bricks are on that table in the lobby.
Okay.
They're at the end, closest to the sliding doors. I plan on adding a couple of pages to that 2 pages there. I want everybody to see what the Wappinger Veterans Advisory is all about. So it's actually just going to be 1 page additional.
Okay.
But they're all available there. And I just appreciate if everybody sends the money to the town hall, and it'll wind up in my folder, and I'll process it. And again, thank you very much for all that you folks have done, are doing, and will do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin, thank you very much. And you and the committee have received, as I'm sure everyone else has, nothing but strongest compliments. Actually, had about a half dozen people saying they'd like to volunteer, for the committee.
Fantastic.
To contact you, and or they can contact me at town hall. But
Right.
I think we've really increased the interest, and as we've said, there's a number of other projects that are on the way. So we'll keep tuned. Let the residents know. But if anybody is listening, watching, and you'd like to volunteer for the Veterans Committee, just contact Kevin, and he'll be more than happy to put you to work. So thanks again to you and the whole committee. Randy, did tremendous, job, and also bringing this together with you from when we started a couple of years ago, to where we are today. So thank you.
Exactly. Definitely.
Kevin, if I could just say, the 5K was incredible. You did a great job, Randy, and your team. That guy, David, was a great crowd motivator. No, seriously, I mean, it's stuff like that makes these events stand out. And to have a gentleman standing there on your committee who is literally rooting for every single person and he doesn't even know these people, to get them past that finish line. It's little things like that people walk away from these events and say, I want to do that again. And, I felt a real positive energy there. And I think you guys did a great job on that. The other event, which was the next day, obviously was a different flavor. But again, you guys achieved the objective. It was a well-organized event that didn't go too long and it didn't go too short. It was perfect. And, we were as safe as possible on a major highway, and it was able to be achieved. Those photos really speak volumes as that sign is being unveiled with Danielle Masterson playing taps in the background, standing on Route 9. So, I'm a big production guy, event guy, and you guys really hit the nail on the head on both of those events. Great job.
Thank you.
Kevin, I'd like to see if we could get a picture of that into the lobby at Town Hall also.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I have a number of people who have produced photos of that entire occasion. I wish there were more photos of the 5K. However, whatever we try, we can't get any publicity out of the Poughkeepsie newspaper. I would like permission to submit as much as I can, within reason, to the Hornet. Is everybody on board with that?
I think that's something the board needs to discuss.
Okay, I'm glad I brought it up then. Okay. Anybody else?
So yeah, so Kevin, again, I want to thank you. I mean, I know I got there early. Thanks for all the pictures and wonderful things, but thank you for taking good care of all the people there. I think you did a great job. The whole team did outstanding. Jessica, thanks for putting me all the way on the other side of the bridge there all by myself, monitoring people. But listen, I had a great time. I got to say hello to a lot of people and encourage people, but really great job. Glad I was able to be one of the sponsors of the event. So thank you for allowing me, Kevin. Second day, as Bill said, was phenomenal as well. Again, different flavor, a little bit different with, the service and unveiling of the sign, which is, again, a wonderful thing. And, thanks for letting me be a part of that particular ceremony, both ceremonies. But 2-day great event. And thank you for everything you did, Kevin. You, Kevin, Jessica, Tommy Mash, Randy as well. So again, great crew there, Kevin. Thank you.
And, I'd like to add, anybody is eligible to come out and help at any occasion. One of our next ones is going to be Pawpalooza, and then we're going to do the book fair again. I would love to have as many employees of the town come out, including Chris Phillips, who's really shy. I think it's fantastic that Bill and Al came out. You guys you made my day. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, why don't you, since you mentioned Pawpalooza, why don't you mention about how some of the proceeds are going to benefit your group and the organization for the veterans?
Well, that really wasn't fair because I talked to Donna about Pawpalooza briefly, very briefly. And I don't mind handing it off to Jessica, although I will say that I am going to be in touch with as many animal vendors as possible, like the service dogs and the other kind of dogs, as well as adoption services. I'm going to work with Donna to just reach out to as many vendors as I can. And now I'll turn this microphone over to Jessica real quick.
Okay, so that event is on May 8th. It's at Schlothouse Park. We have multiple rescues that are going to be there. I think we're full up on rescue organizations just because we don't want too much competition. We want to get as many pets adopted as possible from these groups. We've got some pet-friendly vendors selling all kinds of different items for all sorts of animals. The sheriff's office is going to be bringing one of their canines for either a meet and greet or a demonstration. They're not really sure how their schedule is going to fit with that, but they will be there one way or another. We've got a DJ there who's going to keep everybody going and happy and in the mood to rescue some animals.
And is there, the donations or raffle, going to the veterans, right?
Oh, yeah. We do have, as an extension of the raffle that we had at the race, it will be present there at the pet event and also at the craft fair,
Okay.
which is later in the month.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. And thanks again, Kevin.
Okay.
We'll move on to the next item, which is concerning the emergency water connection. We've had basically 2 requests concerning from 2 residents on All Angels Hill Road. And this is with respect to the extremely poor quality of their water. They're requesting to have, an emergency hookup, to allow them to hook up to our water, system. One of the residents has a 700-foot well, and it's just not performing. It's failing consistently as far as the quality goes. We had, Tom Harvey, CPL, they took a look at it, and I'll let Tim Moot. Tim, are you there? Yeah, there you are.
I'm here. Good evening.
For a summary of your, CPL's observations and recommendations.
Right. So good evening, everyone. It's okay. I'll share my screen. I have a quick graphic here. I did. Let's see. So this is a graphic. Can everyone see that?
No.
Not yet.
Still see you.
No.
There it goes. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have this Sharif property here, as Supervisor Thurston said, they have a very deep well. They've had water quality issues. I think the kind of standing operating procedure is to have some testing done just to prove that the quality is subpar, substandard. I think along this stretch, there's also one other resident that would be interested in hooking up, but as maybe Jim can elaborate, there's a process involved. And I think if we allow folks to connect now and then future users along here may have to connect as well, then there's a whole nother process. So the idea would be, we need to petition the other people to see if they wanted to connect and do the process once. Jim, do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So with respect to the properties there, the Sharif property, and then the properties to the south, all along All Angels there, are not in the United Wappinger Water District. The lot 983499 is in the Water District. That was connected. There's a water main that's there. If you look to the rear of the lots, the Sharif lot, you can see running north to south, that area that Tim is showing. There's a water main that was put in there as part of the Meadowwood Loop project. And at that time, there were connections that were made, or I should say there were provisions for connections for all of the lots that ran along there. In order to do, in order to connect, the properties either have to have a tenancy agreement or be part of the United Wappinger Water District. If we grant a tenancy agreement to these two properties, then, they will also have to be part of the administrative expenses if they're going to, if we're going to expand the district at a later date. I know at the on the west side of All Angels is the Sikh temple property, which was added to the water district probably 2017 timeframe. So the properties to the east there, 026463, and you can see at the kind of where at the top of that property, that's the Meadowbrook well. So the best outcome would be for all of these properties to be included within the United Wappinger Water District. The easiest way to do it is on a petition by more than 50% of the property owners by assessed value. So if you had a petition signed by all of the property, or at least just over 50% of the property owners, the town board could adopt a resolution including them in the water district, and there would be a map plan and report. Here, the costs of connection are pretty minimal in that the water main was installed as part of the Meadowwood Loop project. So it would be just the cost of each of the individual property owners connecting from their house to the water main and then abandoning the wells. I would suspect that, if these two properties have, very bad issues with the quality of the water, I would suspect that the other property owners would have similar water. I don't think the water is going to vary that much, from one property to the next. I believe there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 properties in total. 2 of them have expressed an interest. Even if we don't get a petition from 50% of the owners, the other option that is available to the town board is to do a district extension on motion of the town board, which would be subject to permissive referendum. In that case, the property owners, some of the property owners may not want to be in a position where, they'll affirmatively join in the petition, but because of the nature of the water, it is possible that, they just wouldn't they go along with the flow if the town board did it on its own motion. So I think the first step would be to gauge the interest of the other 5 property owners to see if anybody, if at least 2 or 3 of them would be willing to join in the petition. And if they're not, I think, the potential district extension on motion of the town board would be the preferable way to get this done, because that'll also answer the question as to whether or not, this can happen in the future. And if, for some reason the property owners here circulate for a permissive referendum, then you can basically write these people off the table forever and then just give tenancy agreements to these 2 properties.
Jim, since we met before with the residents, with all those property owners, and the 4 that are there that haven't come to us were most vocal about not joining. And since Mr. Sharif has been actually for several months really concerned about his failure at his location, I mean, can we not though go ahead and do a tenancy agreement, then push and try to get see if there is any resident interest in as quickly as possible? But I am concerned because Mr. Sharif is having continued problems, and Mr. Morgan as well, although he has not yet gotten his wells tested, as I understand it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tim. But
No, I think that's correct. I think I just have correspondence from Sharif.
So since Sharif is the most urgent and has been asking, and we've been discussing with him to get his wells tested, I hate holding him up while others, which very likely may have concerns, as you mentioned, but their biggest issue was the payment of monies. At least several of them had expressed the inability to, because of cash flow and others, to make the payments that would be necessary if they joined the district. 2, I believe, were living off of bottled water, buying bottled water. So they didn't want to go through the added expense. So if it's possible to address Mr. Sharif, I would recommend that we consider that tonight.
Hey, Tim, with those 2 wells right there failing, and it looks like Meadowwood's about 100 yards away, is there any concern about that well?
No, I don't know all the particulars on how everybody's well was drilled. I mean, Meadowwood's been a proven and tested, installation. So
Okay, because
I don't have
we have
specifics.
spots where there's sudden failures in areas. 9D is a great concern these days, and with these wells so close, just it's a question to be asked.
Right.
The question I would have is, what is the expense for buying in as a tenant versus the district being expanded to each person?
Well, I mean, with respect to the tenancy agreement, there is no buy-in fee to be, the buy-in fee is to join the district. So, I mean, it would be, potentially it's possible to just add Sharif to the district. Morgan becomes a bit of a problem since you have a gap on either side.
Right, but who pays for the pipes?
Each individual property owner has to pay to run the pipe from their house to connect to the main. The main's already in.
My understanding is the main is in and a service tap is off of there too, like a water service valve. So each homeowner would have to just run from that service valve to their house. So there's really no work. My understanding is on the main. It's really would be on the homeowner.
Where is the main right now?
It runs down this dirt road looking thing along.
Okay, so the main is already behind, it's already behind their properties.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
So then the process, in order to become a tenant from outside the water district right now, is there a requirement to show that you have a need based on well testing? Is that correct?
Well, that's what we've been doing, yes. And, we did that. So here, we did this, we've done that along Old Hopewell Road because of, because we have a similar circumstance there. The issue with that is that we've had some questions as to what exactly the district extension would look like. because right now the main is on the north side of Old Hopewell Road for the most part. And, if we extended the district, we would probably want to extend it to include the people on the south side of Old Hopewell Road as well. Here, there's a finite, there's a hole in the district, which I think at the time that the Meadow Wood Loop was installed, there was a question about putting it in at that time, and then I know there was some interest at the time that the Sikh temple went in, but I think these property owners wanted their connections to be on the Sikh temple side. So here, like I said, the buy-in fees, the town board could certainly craft a solution where the buy-in fees would be paid over a period of time. The town board always has the right to do that as part of the map plan and report. But the other option is just to extend the property to, do one district extension, a map plan and report for one property. That's probably going to cost them about $5,000.
All right, so if the individual can, this is my opinion, if the individual can show they're having water quality issues and the main is right there at the rear of their parcel, I have no objection to entertaining single tenancies at this point.
Mr. Sharif has provided and worked, with CPL. They've reviewed his test results, and that's been confirmed that he has problems.
And then the other property, 355, you said is still in progress, or what's the status?
I'd say it's still in progress. I think Tom Harvey from my office has indicated the same kind of ground rules. They need to get the well tested.
So that main runs behind 355 also, correct?
Yeah, it runs behind all of these, runs all the way, runs across, runs down to Old Hopewell, and then I think there's a directional bore under Old Hopewell.
All right, in this particular situation, the main is right there, adjacent to their property. If they can show that they have a water quality issue, I don't think it's going to be an issue to allow for tenancies in these cases. This is not like we're going way outside the district.
I agree, Bill.
No, the only problem with the tenancy is that, the tenants pay twice what a member of the district pays.
Right, because they're not in the district and they haven't been paying it. They haven't been paying as a district parcel. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I guess we can explore a district extension, but that's going to take longer than entertaining a tenancy. And if someone has a water quality issue right now, it would probably be a little more expeditious to offer the tenancy. And then I guess if it becomes a district extension later, can we, is there a way to make them whole once it becomes part of the district?
No.
Okay.
No, you'd have to pay the.
And they're fully aware of the additional cost by hooking in themselves as a tenancy?
At least these two homes are, right?
So as long as they're aware of it and they're willing to pay the extra cost, I see no reason why we can't afford them a water hookup.
Right, but are they aware of it?
I don't
I
know.
don't know if they are or not.
So
imagine-
if these,
Well, I think that's pretty key.
I think so too. That's why I'm asking the
That they're
question.
gonna have to pay for this. Unfortunate about the water situation, but that's pretty prevalent in a lot of areas of the town.
So if
That the
these
water
two-
is not good, so I think they need to understand that they're gonna have to pay for the hookup.
so if these two people go into tenancy and the other 4 homes then petition us to be in the district, these 2 homes are stuck at the tenancy agreement?
No, they could be part of the district, but they
Okay.
would have to pay
Okay.
part of the, the cost of the district extension.
Okay.
So does anybody share with them the additional cost to hook up?
No,
I'll have to circle back with Tom Harvey.
I think before we decide we're going to put them into the tenancy agreement, we should ask them, to understand the cost before you sign up for this, because
I
when I
totally
sit
agree.
down the road where, hey, all of a sudden I got a huge bill, and so just, be open and upfront with them. And if we're okay with it, then we can entertain it.
Right, I agree with Al.
What does it cost typically to be a tenant to the water district with the main right behind your house? You just got to pay for the lateral?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past we did this with, we did George Silvestri,
Yeah.
And the other thing that we did is we took the buy-in fee of $3,200 and held it for future district expansion. I mean, that's one of the questions here is, do we hold it for a future district expansion? Because there's no guarantee that the neighbors may block the future district expansion.
Right.
On Old Hopewell Road, we've had a lot of interest in that, and it looks like at some point in time, once
Right.
DEP's construction project's over, we'll be in a position to do a district expansion. I think
Right.
The reason why I'm pushing this to go forward is to make a determination whether or not the district expansion, will happen. I mean, things will not necessarily change, except for, death of property owners. So what I'm saying is, my suggestion is to make the determination at this time to try to do the district expansion. If it fails and these property owners don't want to be in the district, then, foreclose that discussion forever and put these people, Sharif, you could do a district extension, and Morgan, you can do a tenancy agreement, and leave everybody out forever. The other people. I mean, the problem is this comes up frequently. And I won't say frequently, but occasionally the issue comes up, and nobody's ever gauged the interest as to whether or not the district extension could go through. So I think rather than string it along for another couple of years and give Sharif a tenancy agreement, I think find out the answer now. That's just my recommendation.
Tim, to Bill's question, you think they just have to run a lateral line? There's already a tap in the main
Yes.
per house?
Yep.
I think there's already a tap and a shut off, so they basically pick up from the backside of their shut off, run it to their house.
So from our end, it's relatively easy for that
It's
part.
really all the stuff Jim's talking about, the legal process.
Now, is it fair to say that the reason why these parcels are not in the water district is because there were no buildings on these parcels when the water district was created for the purposes of Rockingham and Regency? Is that correct?
That's correct. These
Right.
were vacant and white. That's the old White Corners house there.
Right.
And then Meadowwood Wells was built when the the Meadowwood development went in there diagonally across on the other parcel.
Yes.
And then this loop was done. Actually, Toll Brothers did it as part of their Regency project.
Right.
To provide, the needed water. So Toll put that line in, I don't know, 2012, 2013 timeframe, maybe a little earlier. And then at the time, that was done, it was laid in an existing easement. There was an existing easement there at the time the Meadowwood subdivision was done.
So ultimately, if we really want to look at this from a purist standpoint, really all these parcels should be part of the water district. So in theory, so perhaps we should speak to those residents that are in those homes and find out what their thoughts are, because ultimately they all should be part of the water district. They're basically boxed in by the water district.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think we can go back, Bill, and ask them again. They've rejected it once, but we can ask them if there's any change in opinion.
But
And then if they don't want to move forward, then I can see the only reasonable thing to do would be to entertain those tenancies.
again, if they're not willing to go forward, I think you can do a district extension to cover Sharif, because the property immediately to his north is in the district.
Okay, but the 355 is not, right?
So, I mean, you'd have two lots there in the gap. So.
Yeah, it's just not clean. If we can get them all in, that would be the best bet.
And again, if the buy-in fee, the payment of the buy-in fee, is to be an issue, I mean, that's something that the town board could address in the map planning report and have it paid out over, a 5 or 10 year period or, and then, it's you pay it through your water bill or your tax bill. Probably the easiest thing is the water bill, pay it through your water bill quarterly. I mean, the issue is some of these people may not connect, but you would, do an additional assessment on the tax bill so that, you recoup it over, it's $325 over, 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I had discussed with them a few years ago, Bob Gray and I, possibility of like a 5-year payout. And I think a couple of the houses were interested and 2 of them were not. They just said we don't have cash flow. But I think, Tim, we can go back, and do that survey. Bob once, and then we had a meeting.
Again, the legal standard does not require unanimity from the property owner. So to the extent you get, 51% assessed value of the property owners to agree to the district extension, it can move forward.
But I think that we'd probably prefer to try to have unanimity.
Absolutely.
Rather than forcing it down somebody.
In this market, in this real estate market, it makes the house that much more valuable, particularly when you're looking at people coming up from the city. And I think they'd much prefer municipal water than well water.
Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, those houses over there, those new ones, not the one in the corner, they sit pretty high. I mean, which tells me, basements are sitting way up high, which kind of looks like those houses on Robinson Lane where the water table is elevated. Is that correct? I mean,
that's where I was going to go is, back to Chris's question. I mean, you have this water stream running through here, right? Isn't that a stream? Yeah. And so my guess is the meadow wood wells are probably tying into a shallow aquifer with a shallow groundwater table. Whereas if this fella's well is 700 feet deep, that's...
He's under it, right?
Right.
Okay.
That's speculation on my end.
I think those houses may be elevated because there may be a floodplain issue too.
Yeah. No, I didn't want to say the floodplain word because I now remember some of the discussions relative to the FEMA flood maps over there. But yes. I think we're on the same page right now. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and try to get some more information and report back to the next board meeting. Okay,
Thank
Tim,
you.
talk about that some more. Okay. The next item is in consideration of a request to be removed from the water district. You all have in the packet, the agenda, the letter that I've received from the 5 homes along Brown Road. I've talked with Mike Tremper with respect to this, and of course we don't have any water line going down. There's no main going down there. It ends really at the temple grounds, and the issue is, that the residents have been paying, as you can read, some amounts of money into it, and are requesting to be, removed. As I understand, and this is really for Jim's comment to discuss on the process, but to remove someone from the water district, do we have to go up to Albany and we have to get approval, or what's the process for this?
That's my understanding. I reached out to Christian Harkins today. He indicates that, these properties were given the United Wappinger Water District Code back in 2015 or 2016. Let me just pull up his email. However, it appears that they would have been in the water district before that. This, particularly the Hindu Samaj. I have to pull the site plan to see when exactly, whether or not it was built with municipal water. It seems to be kind of a strange situation. The subdivision plat for the lot that includes the Hindu Samaj indicates that any that once municipal water and sewer it becomes available, that the properties have to connect. So that notation on the subdivision map indicates to me that that the Hindu Samaj was in the water district at that time, or was added at the time of the creation of the subdivision plat. And that was in 1982. So since, the United Wappinger Water District was created back in 2010 by an act of the legislature, it combined several of the water and sewer, or the water districts that were currently existing in the town of Wappinger. So I have to do a little bit of research to find out. Actually, if you would show right where those are the properties there. And Tim, if you go down to right to the right of that lake where the cursor is right now, that's the building that we will later be talking about demolishing, which was the water plant for Rockingham Phase 1. So these lots backed up to Rockingham. I mean, they're very close to water. It's in some respects kind of surprising. I mean, at the time, Rockingham, when Rockingham was first built, it was not a municipal water supply. It was a waterworks corporation. And the subdivision that created these lots on Brown Road was done in 1976 by Vondran, who also owned the lots where Hindu Samaj is. So we'll do a little, I have to do some investigation as to how those lots actually even got into a water district. It's not clear. At the time the lots were laid out, they had well and septic. So before we can make a submission to Albany to consider taking them out, I have to figure out how they got in the district in the first instance.
So Jim, is there a way to leave them in the district and make the contribution zero? So in other words, they're paying about $205 a year on their tax bill. Is there anything we can do? I mean, because they don't get the service of the water over there.
Well, that's a
Other than
benefit.
going through the Albany, which will take probably 10 years, but can decide, get the thing approved. I mean, is there anything else we can do in the meantime?
We can't, I mean, so we've got a whole lot of people who are in water and sewer districts. You can't isolate these people, but you could, and we talked about this, is redoing the benefit assessment formula to people who are not, redoing the benefit assessment formula totally for the town. Right now, the benefit assessment formula does not take into account people who are not connected to a water main. It's done based on lot size. So, and again, we've had this discussion. We had a benefit assessment grievance last year regarding a property owner, I want to say it's Mr. Ostro, who I had a very good conversation with. And, that's something that I think the town board can look at. And that's one of the things is people who do not have a main and access to the main can certainly be assessed a lower benefit assessment, but that would have to work district-wide. So I don't know, how many properties would fit into that category right now. Most our benefit assessment formula is again set strictly based on acreage.
Well, isn't this a capital improvement only fund that they're paying here? And there's really
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
There's really no capital improvement. So, I can understand the residents wanting to, opt out of this, but.
No. I mean, I think it makes sense for, adjusting the benefit assessment for properties that presently have no ability to connect to a main. That's one of the standards for getting into the district in the first place. The standard to put a property into a special district is that they can, quote, be benefited by the improvement. Now, that's a very, very loose terminology, but particularly with respect to water but we have, I think it really does make sense. and, we'd have to look at how many properties are in the town that are in the water district that don't have access to a main. But I think it's certainly a reasonable thing to do.
So
I
how
agree.
do we move forward on this, right? The residents, really shouldn't be paying for something service they're not receiving. So I get it, across a lot of different areas have it, but what can we do here? You talked about.
You'd have to do an inventory of all the properties in the town that, are in the water district, and then you'd have to identify which properties don't have access to a main. I mean,
Wouldn't Christian
Is
have
it
that?
also possible that they were informed at the time that they were put into it, that they would never have access to town water? I mean, that's in their petition.
well, I don't, again, they weren't added, they were put on the benefit assessment roll in 2015 or 2016. That's not when they were added to the district.
Right.
Because there have been no district extensions for that property since 2010. Since the creation of the United Wappinger Water District, there's been, I believe, 10 district extensions, and none of them cover that.
Those appear to be original parcels, Jim, from way back in the day. And what probably was expressed was you're going to at some point have the ability to connect, and it was going to be one of the phases that never happened, because I'm looking at this right now. Those are parcels that are right in that whole middle area between, north of Regency Drive, all that area that was included in the original waterworks area.
Right.
So the fact that they don't even have a water main on their road, because I'm looking at it right now on Google Earth, there's no fire hydrants down that whole road. There's no main, there's no nothing.
Right.
That is probably because there was never a phase to extend that water from All Angels down their road, which runs right to the town of East Fishkill. So if we start looking at every parcel that's in a situation like this, we're going to find a lot. There's a lot of them. And then on the sewer side, there's also a lot. So we have to really take a deep dive into this and see where we're at.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And that's, the benefit assessment formulas that were done for both water and sewer, at least on the residential side, are strictly based on acreage. They were established in the 60s when these water and sewer, the water and sewer districts were first established in the town. Early on, most of the water and sewer infrastructure in the town was actually privately owned. I'd have to go back and look, historically, but the early water and sewer infrastructure in the town were waterworks corporations and sewer works corporations, and as they got 20 or 30 years under the belt and they needed replacement, they were taken over by the town. And there were some independent improvement, but again, Rockingham was a waterworks corporation. Oakwood Knolls, I think Midpoint Park was. I think all of those were private companies that were ultimately taken over by the town at a later date, but they weren't developed by the town. So and when the town took it over, it just again when they were done in the mid 70s or so, they were pretty straightforward formulas. You didn't have GIS, you didn't have a lot of the ability that we have today. I mean, one of the things we talked about with respect to Mr. Ostro's grievance was a lot of the acreages on the parcels are steep slopes or wetlands that can't be developed, but our benefit assessment formula doesn't take that into account either. So,
And I think that's something that the town really has to start looking into, and that information should be something that Christian has, right?
no,
Christian
Christian
Martin
doesn't have any of that
doesn't have that?
information. Nope.
Okay.
He just has, property values. So, acreage and, he would have the number of acres and the value of the property, which is exactly why the formula is the way it is. Because the assessors maintain the benefit assessment rolls. And, they do it either on an ad valorem basis or a benefit basis. But again, you can either do it, based on, historically, it was either based on usage or size of the lot. So.
Right, but ultimately, the benefit assessment has to at some point exhibit a benefit. So if someone's paying $205 a year forever and there's no benefit even in the plans of the town, that's not right. There might have been a plan back when they originally put them in the district that, okay, it's our intent to provide you with this infrastructure. That's why you're paying this. But right now, we have not had a discussion relative to Brown Road. It's not fair that these folks are paying this money if they're not receiving the benefit and if there's no intent for us to provide them that benefit.
So there is actually, with respect to the subdivision plat, there is an easement back to the Rockingham sewer plant, to the Rockingham water plant, what was the Rockingham water plant. So, at the time it was done. So, it looks like it was intended to at least in the future, service, service these lots with utilities. Was never done. But there is an easement on the subdivision plat, which goes back to that Rockingham site. I think ultimately what happened was the Rockingham water plant was decommissioned, and it was never done. But
so where's the nearest water? Is the nearest water over by Tor Road? I know there's a fire hydrant over there. I mean, that's probably the closest connection if they were ever going to connect.
It's on All Angels. It's right. There's a hydrant right in the corner of All Angels and Brown. So do they need water? I mean, we could run water to them, but we'd have to pay a lot of money to do so. But I would say we'd be obligated to provide that if they wanted it.
Right.
So where do we go from here, Jim? I mean, we've been talking about this, like kicking this around a lot. What is the best way to handle it? Do we look at the benefit assessment? Do we, see how we can, potentially get them out of the district so they're not making the contributions anymore? Because again, they're not receiving the service. And I get it. There's a lot of different areas that have pockets, but what can we do in this particular one? This is the one that's on.
Well, I mean, I think at a minimum, you need to do an inventory of see how many parcels there are in the town that don't quote receive a benefit, or I should, let me take that back. I'll rephrase it. I'll say, how many properties do not have immediate access to a water main? And then, you can look at it on the sewer side, but, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if these people want to foot the bill to go to Albany and get legislation, that's fine. For the 5 lot owners, again, I don't think, necessarily the town should be footing the bill to do that. Again, whether you want to do it for other properties in the town, that's another question. If you're going to do it for these 5 people, why aren't you going to do it for everybody in the town?
That's where you got to be careful. You got to be careful with that. There's a lot of parcels out there on both the water and sewer side that, I've heard from people on Old Hopewell Road that are in the sewer district that don't have sewer. And, this is a big can of worms. You got to be very careful how we proceed with this.
Right.
This could be something we should have a workshop about, possibly.
Well, I mean, I think that, so the first question is, do you want to, the assessor is going to give you, the assessor can give you the benefit assessment rules of what properties are in the district. We actually have a pretty good map, CPL has done the mapping.
Right.
I mean, I think you can task someone to look through the mapping and see, the one problem is that most of the mapping has the larger mains, the distribution mains. I don't think it necessarily has a main on every street where there's a main, they're kind of going backtrack on some of that. But, I think before you take any action with respect to this, I think you need to get, as Bill says, a scope of what the overall problem is. But, I wouldn't, I'm not even going to guess how big the problem is. It's certainly more than these proproperties.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree.
I
I know it's more
totally
than these
agree.
properties, no doubt.
And the other side of this is you have to look at the philosophical argument. Okay, do we go through the whole process of removing these people, or do we invest in additional infrastructure to bring it to them? What's the better approach? That's something that we need to look at as well. I'm not just talking about Brown Road. I'm talking about any area that's affected by this, because there have been, obviously, there's different town boards every 2 years, right? There have been town boards in the past that have expressed priorities in some areas, and then it's never happened. And that's why some of these district lines were drawn the way they were.
I mean, sewer is a much bigger issue because,
Big pipe.
than it is water. I think, at this point, you just, the smaller determination is water. Sewer, we have large areas in the town that were included in the so-called big pipe improvement, which don't have access to sewer currently. And, at the time, it's still probably a pretty politically charged issue. And there is legislation, that is on the books currently that requires anybody in that big pipe area to connect to municipal sewer once it becomes available. I'm not aware of an equivalent on the water side. I'd have to look at that issue, but.
Well, the idea on the sewer side was so we don't have package plants popping up all over the place, and then in 30 years we'll have the same problem.
Exactly. So, I mean, the other issue too, with respect to water is, again, one of the issues is if you're in the water district, you have the obligation, or you have the ability to tell the town to bring you water. There's certain, obligations with respect to the cost of extending it there, but, to the individual property owners, but it's a very, very different calculus. I mean, these people wouldn't have to pay any kind of buy-in fee or anything like that. So, there's some legal issues associated with it. At the end of the day, it may benefit the town to take these people out of the water district if, it's cost prohibitive to provide them with water in the future. But by the same token, there's a number of infrastructure programs that are on the horizon, to provide water and sewer. So, that may be, something that could be used for doing an extension like this.
So as a conclusion out of all this, we're going to look at from a town-wide perspective, benefit assessments across the town, not just this one isolated. And the second thing is if the residents want, we can try to get, legislation approved from Albany. That's the conclusion we're drawing here from what you've been saying. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, that's, those are the options.
I just don't want to leave this open-ended.
So
because,
so
I'm sure
basically,
the residents are on the phone or watching on television, and we want to, give them an answer. And it
So
may not be something they like, but let's give them an answer.
so there's three options on the table. One would be to go to Albany on the to get legislation to take these properties out.
Okay.
They can certainly, push for, I mean, it's got to be passed in the Senate and in the Assembly and then signed by the governor.
Okay.
Then the other option on the table is, for the town board to revisit the benefit assessment formula for properties that are not connected. And I think, as part of that also, and I think that exercise is helpful because it'll give you an inventory of areas where, future water expansion may be necessary. And, by the same token, you do it on the sewer side as well. But, that way, and again, I think, the town, the short-term goal for the town probably would be to provide water service to people who are currently in the district and don't have access to it. And if you can do that at a reasonable cost, then they should be helped first before you broaden the district and go, start helping, outside people. So
That makes the most sense.
Question, Jim, is the petition to get removed from a water district, is that on is the petitioner the property owner or is that the town?
I believe it's the property owner.
So that's the thing. So
I don't know.
Go ahead.
This was done probably 20, 25 years ago.
All right. So rather than belabor this any further, I know we're going to discuss having a workshop meeting. This is a very broad topic. Something that Jim also mentioned that should be part of that workshop meeting or a workshop meeting is our infrastructure plan. I know the supervisor's already been looking at this.
Right.
But if we do, if we're going to be discussing this and benefit assessments and revisiting that process, I think if we're going to have the potential of federal money coming into this town for infrastructure, and I define infrastructure as pipes in the ground and things like that, and others define infrastructure a little bit differently. Perhaps we can include that as part of a workshop meeting so that we can actually clear our minds and just have that conversation, because this one right here is going to be we're not going to reach any solutions tonight on this.
I agree.
I agree.
Glad you defined infrastructure for us, Bill. I was concerned.
Well, there are some out there that have a broader definition.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Ken, thank you.
I'll look into it. Next item, Barbara Roberti and David Stolman have prepared a rough draft, basically proposal for some code amendments, as we've been doing throughout the last 2 to 3 years. And this is just really kind of a pre-introduction. We're not going to consider it as just to explain. And so I'd like to have Barbara.
Okay, I'm emergency babysitting, so.
Oh, I thought that was David Stallman there. I wasn't sure either.
Barbara, you can come back if you want. Come back.
I feel for you. Go ahead.
So, nothing earth-shattering. We're cleaning up a few things and we're introducing a few things. So the first thing we're doing with farm animals, we've been getting a lot of complaints of people's farm animals going into other neighbors' yards. So we're putting in that farm animals have to be fenced in. Then we're talking about outdoor storage with the code is there. We're just adding that refuge containers need to be brought in when it's not a garbage day. Some people keep them out for days and days on end.
Thank you.
Which a lot of neighbors do not like. A big section of this is exterior lighting. The planning board has been looking very closely at the intensity of the lighting throughout the town. So the exterior lighting, if you look through, talks about the intent purpose, the hours of the lighting, ATM lighting, the different types of pole heights. And I think it's something we really need to talk about, especially that the planning board has a problem a lot of times with gas stations and ATMs and banks being very, very bright all night. We're also looking at the different things that the prohibitions through it, that uplighting, roof-mounted lighting, even floodlights and unshielded wall pack. We even put something in for residential. We're having a lot of complaints where people are putting high-intensity lighting facing their neighbors. So this just says they have to downshield them or in some way cover them so that the neighbors aren't blinded. The next section is 240-30B, and we've had a lot of people come in and they want a little bit bigger than a 2-car garage. And we had changed the code many years ago to have a maximum of 600 square feet. So now we're looking at, as the lots get bigger, increasing the allowable size of a garage or a barn. And then the next code is a new code, section 240-96I, and that's for electric vehicle charging stations, seeing that all our big automobile companies are looking to go electric. So a lot of people are starting to put them into their garages for residential use, and some of the big car companies are looking to put them in to service their customers in the cars on the lots. So that just describes that. And then fences, we talked about this at a previous meeting. So what we're doing is we're going to reduce fencing in a front yard to 4 feet in height so as not to inhibit sight distance. And the corner properties are going to need a survey, and we'll go out when they're looking to do that. I have a few of them now. What else? Solid waste, it just refers again to 240-14C back to refuse containers. It just puts it in there as well because it shows up in 2 parts of the code. And then in 217-25, which is our subdivision chapter, we're just putting it in writing that site easements must be kept clear of any obstructions. And then our fire inspectors had issues with open burning. So we've added to section 127.2, the open burning law so that people are aware, and that if we have people burning, we can actually show them the code, what is allowable. This also comes from the DEC. And then that's it. There weren't that many. So if anyone has any questions now.
Well, the definition of open burning needs to be very specific, since people now are buying these outdoor fireplaces and these chimneys and these different types of apparatus you can get from Lowe's and Home Depot and are burning in their backyard. It's become a real headache, I'll be honest with you. And you know this, Barbara, where we have people that, are sitting around roasting marshmallows, and their neighbors are calling the fire inspector and fire department on them. So, I hope that we can make this even more specific and better understood for folks, because somebody could be following our laws and the neighbors are still calling. And I hate to get in the middle of the neighbor versus neighbor.
And that's unfortunate. This says we allow 3 feet in diameter by 3 feet in height, except on the venting portion of the device. It talks about if it's windy, it talks about chimneys and all the different type of landscaping type of fireplaces you can buy at the different stores. It's pretty intense. If you read this, we kind of covered what they can burn, because a lot of people feel they can burn household garbage, leaves, and other products that are very smoky to the neighbors, and also can catch on fire easily if they, float out in the wind. It also talks about having an available supply of water, like a garden hose nearby, and limiting to 1 fire on a lot.
You have something in writing with all these changes that you just talked about, because you went through a lot of changes, and I think I understood most of them, but I like to see them in writing. So in case somebody asks me about code, I can't repeat it like you can. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
It's in
this
the
was
packet.
circulated. I will circulate this to all of you.
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
It's all underscored.
Just go to page 12, 13, that area.
okay, thanks.
So with respect to open burning, one of the things that we have to look at, though, is to make sure it's not preempted by the fire code, New York State Fire Code, and by DEC regulations, because the town cannot adopt anything that conflicts with the uniform code that's more restrictive than the uniform code without approval from Albany. And, DEC has their own regulations. I just looking quickly, I think some of it is consistent, but the town, the New York State Fire Code is what approves, fuel burning appliances and things like that. The town doesn't have any independent authority to do that. So one of the things I think we should do is circulate this up to codes in Albany to find out what their thoughts are, at least with respect to open burning.
Yeah, the question right now, Jim, is the challenge we're running into is the DEC burn ban, which goes through May 15th or 16th, whatever it is this year. It bans open burning, and then there's a gray area relative to the definition of what open burning is. Correct. Between the different levels of government. So, I've been just driving around when somebody calls me and just telling people, please, you can't burn leaves, obviously. However, some people now will put their leaves into a circle of bricks and be sitting there saying they're cooking when they're not. So we really need to make sure that all 3 levels of government are on the same page with this. And at the same time, we're not taking away someone's rights to roast marshmallows with their family responsibly. The other point that I just want to bring up is part of this section 127.3 says that individuals constantly attended by a responsible person of age 18 or older who shall not be under the influence of an intoxicant. I don't want to say open up the marijuana can of worms here, but that's going to be something we're going to need to address in this if individuals are on their private property and they have a campfire and they are using personal amounts of marijuana in a legal sense. We want to make sure that our local law does not contradict whatever the state law allows.
So just looking on the DEC website, with respect to the current open burning ban, there are exceptions. Campfires less than 3 feet in height and 4 feet in length
Right.
with or diameter are allowed. Small cooking fires are allowed. Fires cannot be left unattended and must be fully extinguished. Only charcoal or clean, untreated, or unpainted wood can be burned. Ceremony or celebratory bonfires are allowed.
Right.
That's
So that would be
an issue.
That would be COSM. The COSM situation falls under that
Right.
stipulation. So anyway, perhaps we can have a conversation offline. Are we voting on these code changes tonight or no?
No.
No.
You can even submit it as a resolution. This is just to introduce it to you.
Okay, so I'll dig into this a little bit then. Thank you.
I just have just another couple of things for the board to think about regarding the accessory structures. This is probably the most requested variance that we get in the town. And, you know, so right now, the limit is to no building greater than 600 square feet, and it's a limit of 2. One of the things that this addresses somewhat, but, you know, if it's a lot, at least 5 acres, that's 1,200 square feet. I think that we should probably consider an exemption for barns and stables and greenhouses. You know, those structures are pretty large, probably more than 1,200 square feet. Also, with respect to this, you know, right now, and the other issue with respect to animals being fenced, it won't apply to properties in an agricultural district.
Correct.
So, you know, that's one of the other things. So, you know, particularly the large lots here. We have a number of large lots where people have horse farms and things of that nature, but they're not in an ag district. They're in essence hobby farms. So, you know, I think, you know, in those cases, if somebody has, you know, a stable and maintains horses, you know, it's pretty hard to have a stable of, you know, 600 square feet or 1,200 square feet. I don't know what the average size stable is. So, you know, that may be.
That's really that's not that big though, a 600 square feet. I mean,
exactly.
You're looking at a single story, right? What if
Right.
it's 2 stories? It can't be, right? I mean, if you're
Well,
doing,
I mean, that's the other issue that I don't think is, I guess it just says the foot. I mean, that's another thing that we actually need to address is, and I don't, is 600, oh, it's a footprint. It's a
Okay.
footprint of 600 square feet. But again, that's, you know, roughly a 2-car garage.
right. So like, I mean, what is that? Like 20 by 20 is 400, right?
Right.
So, I mean, these are not large structures.
20 by
Not
30,
large.
no.
20 by 30 would be the number you're at, right?
But 600 and then 1,200 would be 30 by 40.
Right. So as long as it's, you know, proportional to the lot that the person's on, you know, I mean, I heard from a resident that was running into real issues with this, trying to put up a detached garage and explaining to me how he couldn't fit his trucks in it based on our dimensions, you know?
Well, that actually has been one of the issues is, you know, if you've got, you know, if you're a plumber and you've got, you know, a larger truck, and then, you know, a lot of the people are, you know, are contractors or something like that. And, you know, they typically want to have, you know, a 2-car garage with some storage area. So those are the typical, you know, variances that came in. You know, Al can tell you about that, right? He's seen a million of those. But, you know, I mean, we've had, you know, ones in the past where somebody's requested a greenhouse, or, you know, things of that sort. You know, greenhouses are, you know, relatively, I mean, they're not that huge, but I mean, you know, something, so there is a mechanism in the code which deals with what's called impervious surface or lot, I take it back, lot coverage. So, that's the other provision in there. But, you could address that, because that applies as well. So there's depending on the zoning district, you can only cover a certain amount of the lot with buildings, accessory or not.
Gotcha.
Okay, we'll look into those things further and get back when we bring it in, officially propose it, put it on the agenda.
And there'll be a public comment period on all this.
That's right. Yeah, that's right, Bill.
Yeah, so the public, I mean, there are folks out there that are watching these footprint dimensions. They should definitely express their, their opinion.
Okay, let's move on to the demolition of the
Thanks,
old.
Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks.
Let's discuss that item, as we've had internal discussion looking at what is necessary. And I think having some sort of asbestos study is going to be necessary. I talked with Mike Tremper today. He's back from vacation, and he believes that at the time, the building was sufficiently cleaned out when it was decommissioned as a water. In fact, the original proposal was that one of the cell tower companies was going to demolish it, but that never happened. But I think that Jim's in agreement that we need to at least find someone to inspect it to make sure there are no issues.
Well, that's required by the labor law, so.
Right. So I think, here, Tim, do you have any other comments you'd like to make, or Steve Frazier with respect to it?
Yeah, I put Steve in touch with Quest, excuse me, company we use quite a bit for these pre-demolition surveys. And they're more than qualified and, recognized to do the work. I'd say the only caveat, and I teed this up with Steve and he can elaborate, but the building has to be safe to enter and also be able to access the roof. And so Rudy Lipinski is the representative from Quest, and he just requested to work out with Steve a site visit to look at that. And I guess, Jim, the only other way around it, if it's unsafe to test, then the building and its in materials and contents could be considered hazardous materials as a precautionary measure, and then the whole building has to be disposed of in accordance with that characterization if it's unaccessible.
Yeah, I don't know if that's that's my understanding of the way the law works is, if you can't get in, then you have to treat it as if it's contains asbestos. The issue here is building looks like it was built in 1966 timeframe. So, there may well be asbestos. I don't know if there was any insulation. I don't know how much piping or anything is left in there. So
There's none, but he wasn't clear on that exactly.
yeah, the other issue too, with respect to demolition is how close is piping. I think in doing the demolition work, you have to, when the facility was shut down, pipes were capped. So in doing demolition work, you're going to have to be careful.
And Mike said all the pipes were capped. So I did talk to Mike. I know Mike was out there for an inspection today. I don't know if he was out there with you or not, but Mike said from what he recalls, there probably isn't any asbestos, but he's not the expert.
Right.
And he suggested we go out there, get a professional come in. It sounds like he's already talked to you, Tim, already on who to use. So, where do we go from here? I guess the question.
Well, I think you get Quest to do the asbestos study, and then the other issue is I think you would have to excavate, whatever the piping is there to a certain distance away from the building, so that when you demolish the building, because you have to check back with Mike Tremper to make sure. I would assume that the piping was capped in the building. So if you're going to demolish the building, you're going to have to cap it somewhere outside the building. And
normally we would create what we call a demolition plan, and we would show that, and we'd get it all coordinated and laid out. I imagine we would get quotes, to do the demolition. It would be a bid just like normal. So we can handle all that. Steve, did Rudy connect with you?
Yeah, he did a site visit a couple days ago and was going to put together a quote then based on what he found. We've got the building boarded up at this point. The floor is rotten to the point that you could see into the basement. And that's why I say it really can't be entered. I mean, it isn't that far across though either. It's not a large building by any means. So I don't know if there's a way that we could reach and probe, from the exterior or not. And then the roof could be accessed with a 20-foot ladder.
Yeah, that's why I kind of recommend that they come and look at it themselves to see what they're up against.
So Quest is already out there, and they're going to come back with an estimate, Steve?
That's what he told me, yeah.
Okay, good. Any way we move some of those big barrels and tubs they got out there too? They got those big white cylinders out there. I mean, they certainly have nothing to do with the building itself, but appearance and everything else, that we can take care of that too.
Not sure what it is you're talking about.
There's two big white cylinders right next to the building. You go up to the.
I'll have to go and look. I didn't notice them when we were working out there.
Yeah, there's two big ones off to the left of the building. So, if you're facing the building straight off to the left, there's two big, huge white cylinders there that are just collecting garbage and whatever else they're collecting. So it's nice to get those removed when you get a chance.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, Tim and Steve can move ahead with just getting the estimates for us. Okay. Okay, next item, Steve, is yours. Actually, we have two hiring proposals, seasonal employees, and then the grounds maintenance mechanic. So why don't you go ahead and, discuss that again.
Right. At one of the prior meetings, we had discussed getting the grounds crew to be seasonal employees so that the year-round employees could move on to some of these repair and maintenance projects that we have. We put an ad out. We got about 20 responses to the ad. Of those, about 12 agreed to come in to an interview, and out of those, 3 actually showed up for the interview. It was 4 or 5 positions, I believe, that we spoke about. So I have 3 candidates for those positions here tonight.
So how many are funded? Are 2 funded or 3 funded?
There's 1 vacant that is funded. The other 4 would need to be funded.
Okay.
So catch me up here. So how did we get to the point where we're hiring people now that are not in the budget?
Well, I think Steve's proposal for the board to consider that, then we would have to find the, monies and allocate those accordingly. I think that's what Steve's, requesting.
All right, because I've never done it this way before. Generally, the director of buildings and grounds has X number of positions, and that's who we hire. So, Steve, what's different this time around?
Well, it was a discussion that came up at a meeting or 2 ago, and that I thought it had been suggested that we move forward with it. I've been working with HR and the supervisor on it, and we got the candidates, and had been told there was a consensus among the board that we wanted to move forward.
I thought there was as well, but
There might have been. I'm just trying to get caught up here.
I think the idea was that Steve would use these seasonal workers to do, park maintenance and grass mowing and things of that nature to free up his existing staff to do the other projects. So this was really, the proposal that we were looking at, we had some back and forth this week, is hiring them in as groundskeepers, which, is kind of more in line. In the past, we've had the title of laborer, which doesn't really, the laborer position really is more of a highway department position. the job duties of a groundskeeper is more in line with the duties that Steve has for his department, which is, maintaining the buildings, maintaining the parks, things of that nature. It also includes the ability to do some skilled trade work, as called for on a, incidental basis.
If you got these people that help you, I know you've got a lot of jobs out there. We always talk about it, 75 to 100 jobs out there, projects. Does it help you start to, get some of those things caught up on? And how long would you need the people? Is it 5 months you're talking about, 6 months? When would you like to start them? I'm sure you want to start them today, but.
Well, it would be during the grass season.
Okay.
And I'm told now too by HR that a seasonal employee can only work 6 months out of the year. So it would be a 6 month period.
Okay.
And, it would pretty much coincide with the grass season.
And these are full-time employees for 6 months?
Correct.
All right.
So
So,
also, there's no benefits, and they're not subject to the collective bargaining agreement, as we understand it.
so no benefits. Aren't we obligated under Obamacare to provide them with benefits?
I don't believe so for seasonal employees. I have to look at that. But
So in the resolution, it's $16 an hour seasonal. And you said 6 months max?
Right, 6 months, Chris.
Okay.
Because if,
It's 16,640 per person.
What's the total?
16,640 would cover the 6 months at $16 an hour.
And that's times 4 because we only have one funded, correct?
Right.
so then how many full-time positions would you have in your department at that point?
How many full-time?
Yeah.
Would still have same number year round, and then these additional 4 seasonal.
Do you have what, 5 or 6 full timers?
Well, including the custodian, I have 7.
7. Okay.
Then it'd be 5 seasonal.
Steve, how many seasonal did you have last year?
2.
How many full-time employees did you have last year over versus this year, not including the seasonal?
The same number, but
Okay.
kind of catching me off guard here. Give me a second here to think about who I have. It's either 6 or 7, including the custodian.
Okay.
And 5 of those then went, during the grass season, they were pretty much dedicated to cutting.
So we have 16,6 budgeted, and we have to add 4 more to that, bringing a total of 83,2 for the 5, correct?
No, one of them already funded.
That's what I'm saying, but if you add the 5 of them, that's 83,2 to cut grass for the season.
But I'm not sure where you're coming up with 5 instead of 4.
Well, because you have 1 funded, so you want 4 more, so 4 plus 1 is 5, times 16,640 is 83,2.
Right, but that one is already, the money's already there.
Again, I'm just looking at the overall, what it would cost for 5 guys to cut the grass for the season.
So Steve, is that you need 5 guys or 4 guys on a season?
Yeah, it would be, there'd be 5 guys on the mowing crew.
Right, yeah, that was,
So we'd have to fund about 66,000 because you've already got roughly 15,000 in the budget.
yeah. 66,560 for a grand total of 83,2.
Yeah, I need to discuss this in executive session. This is not how you budget. This is a mid-year major adjustment. And all due respect, Steve, I mean, these are the types of things we discuss in September when we prepare a budget. Now, I do remember us having some discussions about adding some people, but this is like a 30 or 40% increase on his department with personnel.
Well, I move forward with what I was asked to do. I was told by HR that there was a consensus of the board that this was the direction that we wanted to go. So we, this is where we're at.
I mean, in addition to the expense, I mean, I'm not convinced, Jim, there's not fringe obligations on this.
We could look at that issue. Steve, did we pay them fringe last year?
The only thing that we've paid the seasonal people is the holidays during the weeks that they work.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Right, but we're not.
That's not to say that we weren't obligated to do it last year.
Right, I mean.
We didn't do it last year.
That's right.
Right, but again, if we are offering individuals full-time employment, I understand it's 6 months, full-time employment, we need to be sure that we don't have to pay them health benefits. And if that's the case, we're going to see a 40% increase on top of the salaries.
Sarah,
Is there a definition at the county based on seasonal work?
No, we don't pay the benefits. We don't have to offer benefits.
We don't have to offer them benefits?
No, not for seasonal, no.
What if they request benefits?
We don't offer it to seasonal.
So a full-time employee can work
No.
for our town and not receive health benefits?
It's only for full-time employees. They're not for seasonal. They're working 40 hours a week, but they're not full-time. They're just seasonal.
So under the Americans, the ACA, Obamacare, it's maximum of 120 days. So if you work less than 120 days, you're considered to be seasonal and benefits are not required.
So where does that put us?
Cap the term at 120 days.
Right.
Okay, so that's
26 weeks is 130 days. So it would be 2 weeks less than that, 24 weeks.
That's 168 days. Or, okay, working
It's a
days.
5-day work week.
Right.
So when would you ideally start them to finish them? I mean, is your season more towards the end of the year or you want it now?
No, the grass is growing now. They're to be the people on the machines cutting grass.
All right, like Bill said, let's have this discussion in executive session and figure it out.
Well, why do we need to discuss an executive session? I think we need to discuss it right here now. I
We
mean,
did discuss a session 2 sessions ago, and my understanding is that it was a go with the seasonal hire.
we either say now we do it or not. I think, Bill, we just need to do it. If we don't do it, then Steve's not going to get to the other, list, and that, so be it. But I think we have to decide right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other issue is, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but you only have 3 people right now. So,
Right. I have three candidates for 5 positions.
And one position is funded, correct?
Correct.
Right.
So we'd need to fund 2 more positions tonight.
So we're funding 2 positions, not 4 positions.
Well, the idea originally was to make 4 positions, but I only have 2 candidates.
Well, 3 candidates, but 1 is funded, so you only have to fund 2. So roughly 33,000 you have to fund tonight. That's not in the budget.
Okay, I don't have an objection with 33,000.
I don't either.
That's
We have
fine.
to use the 3 employees if we need it for the resolution, or we can just give them the general authorization, but I have the names of the 3.
Yeah, and he sent them to us.
yeah, we'll add that. There is a resolution, so I believe, yes, 2021-74. So
Yep.
we'll amend them at the time.
I am just a little bit uneasy, though, about folks that are working for us that don't have health insurance. That's just my position. I mean, I understand our obligation. What happens if one of these individuals, gets hurt on the job here and workers' comp covers only a portion of it? And I mean, we're hanging them out to dry here. They're out there riding around on lawnmowers.
Well, I mean, workers' comp has to cover it all because private insurance won't cover a workers' comp injury.
Yeah. It's fully covered.
Okay. And these are 40-hour-a-week employees or 35s?
40.
40.
All right, I'll yield until we get to the resolution.
Okay. Steve, the ground maintenance mechanic?
Right. We also discussed this then as well. If I have the people to put out into the field to do the project list, in order to do that efficiently, I need a second. We were talking about moving Sal up in position and then to backfill Sal's spot. That would put 2 working crews out in the field rather than 1, and would, start taking these projects off the list.
And
I don't have a candidate for the.
What's the salary of this one? Steve, what's the salary?
Current opening salary on that was 45. And, that would be a year-round position with benefits.
But we don't have a candidate yet, right?
Well, yeah, didn't have the position approved, so we haven't solicited.
What's Sal's current title?
Maintenance mechanic.
Maintenance mechanic, okay.
Well, Steve, if you were to have this person, then how many additional items, to always address Al's question, would you be able to take care of?
Well, it depends if we tackle the little ones or the big ones. It's certainly going to be more than what we're achieving now. It's a tough call to say because so many different things happen unexpected that we have to run to. I hardly put my hands on a tool today, running around checking on jobs and other phone calls and taking care of some seasonal items myself. So it's unpredictable to say exactly what's going to happen, but it'll certainly be more than we're taking care of now.
What if we did a shared service with the garage?
Different union.
Figures.
University. Yeah.
So this position, maintenance mechanic, this is not the same as a mechanic that works at the highway garage, is it?
No.
No, maintenance mechanic is like a building mechanic, not the garage. The highway garage is an automotive mechanic. So there's
All
a
right, so
difference.
this is the maintenance mechanic civil service title that's consistent with what we have in county government, Sarah, correct? So like a building operations mechanic, a guy that handles the operations of buildings and things like that.
Yes.
But what was it? Was this geared toward a more skilled laborer also?
Yes.
Right. And
Worker, yeah.
the reason we created this position is because I've gotten tied up with administrative work. And, I needed somebody with similar skills to mine in the field to pick up the slack. And that's where Sal came in. He's doing a tremendous job. But, now if we're going to have the extra laborers available, then, I ideally need a second foreman out there to initiate the jobs and be the leader.
So he'll be your number 2 in this position officially, is that correct?
Correct.
And Sarah, that makes sense from a order of succession standpoint?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And what was the salary on this now?
45.
All right, because I remember a couple years ago, we talked about 45 being the price point for a skilled laborer. So that's consistent with where we're at right now. Now, where is his salary now in compared to where it would be in the new position?
So we made that determination because in the contract, a promotion would be 5%.
So he get 5% in the new title?
We're talking about Sal, correct?
I'm just trying to not use the individual's name, but yes.
That's correct, Bill. It would be 5% of the current salary.
Yeah. It's my turn.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, then the next.
If I could ask one question here while we're all together. We mentioned that I think you said groundskeeper was the title, Jim? That better fit the position?
Yes.
What would be involved to change the laborers to groundskeeper, the existing laborers?
It would just be I should just be an RPC at the county.
Yeah.
It's a non-competitive position and not hired off a list.
I think it's a labor.
I think that's something we should consider.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's, and we could certainly do that.
Right.
The only thing is, for purposes of the contract, as far as pay, right now, the groundskeeper, we don't really, it's not necessarily, it's a lateral. I wouldn't call it a promotion. Because in the contract and the addendum to the contract, starting salary for both a seasonal and for a groundskeeper and a laborer, it has the same starting salary under the contract. So I believe they're equivalent positions. Neither of them have any requirement for prior experience in the position. Maintenance mechanic requires 2 years experience in construction. So that would be a higher title than laborer or groundskeeper.
Okay. I think it's going to be beneficial if we have all the same people that are doing the same type of work under the same title.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think originally we went with laborer because it was exempt. I didn't realize that groundskeeper was exempt also, so that makes more sense.
It's not exempt, it's non-competitive. I'm sorry, they're both in the labor class, I should say.
So they're okay. So they're both non-competitive labor positions.
Right.
Labor.
Yeah, they're in the labor class. That's correct.
But groundskeeper more effectively describes the role.
Type of
Correct.
work.
Correct.
The groundskeeper obviously talks about, mowing grass, maintaining playing fields, whereas the labor position talks about cleaning catch basins and things like that. So
I have no objection to standardizing that.
Do we need to come back with a resolution on that, Jim, or can we just move forward?
we can move forward on that,
Okay.
and, at some point in time, I mean, I don't know if the union's going to have a problem with it, but we can certainly discuss it with them.
Just added to the list of problems, that's all.
Yeah.
And then just, just to clarify where we stand with the additional maintenance mechanics, should we gather more information for you, or where should I go with that? And that's addressed to the board.
I guess I just have one question with respect to that. For the one incumbent who would be Steve's number two, are we still looking at creating a new title for that position?
We're going to discuss that in executive session, I think, too.
Yeah, I agree. We need to talk a little bit more about it.
Sarah's
Because, is there currently, Steve, do you have someone currently in the maintenance mechanic position?
Correct.
Okay, so if somebody gets transferred to a different thing, then theoretically you may not need a new maintenance mechanic position that's already there. So you would, in essence, you would create a new position and then backfill the vacancy.
That's right. That's right.
Bill, is he raising his hand? Yes.
Yes, he agrees with the majority.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Okay. Oh, well, we'll discuss this a little bit later. Okay, let's move on to the discussion concerning the reopening of town hall, without appointments, as I've, suggested earlier that we should do this. I think the numbers are now certainly much lower and continuing on the down slope at this point. Knock on wood, that it's going through. So I open it to the discussion of the board members.
I agree, Dick, based on the numbers that, you provided today, and I know Bill's been tracking them very closely. I think that certainly it looks like a May 3rd date for reopening town hall is appropriate at this time. Back in the meeting we had on the 12th, I had said, let's reassess it on the 26th. Let's see where we're at, but the numbers are trending in the right direction. So I think that, we should tonight, hopefully the board will agree that we should open town hall on May 3rd.
In opening town hall, we would start then having all board meetings for the several boards open, and also I think we've had a lot of interest in opening the senior center.
Correct.
Dean, Jessica can make some comments, but I think we need to open that as soon as possible within the current limitations of 50% seating until that changes.
Yeah, I had sent out a refresher on what we had talked about back in October during the first attempt to reopen, which involved, I sent out a kind of quick and easy summary of it to you all earlier, but we'd relocate down to the large meeting room. We would no longer serve any food or drinks until this is all passed, because we don't want people removing masks on and off. Masks would be required. For the first month of operation, we would open at a 25% capacity, which is only 14 people, and then bump it up to 50% the following
Why
month.
that we're allowed to go to 50%. We have a lot of frustrated, pent-up, people that are complaining every day. I don't see why we can't go to 50%.
I agree.
Let's do it then.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Well, the original plan was, because we're going to be working off of a reservation system, we're also going to be processing them in if they want to provide us with vaccination information and things like that to do that. We're also, that's only for our indoor activity. Those numbers would not factor into our outdoor activities. So theoretically, we could have a 50 or a 25% capacity indoors and an additional 6 to 8 people outdoors doing the outdoor activities. But if the board would prefer to reopen immediately at 50%, that's 28 people, we'll do it.
What are the other towns? What are the other towns doing? Like Fishkill, East Fishkill? Do we have an idea? Because I know we're seeing a lot of going back and forth on opening up town hall for seniors.
You have Fishkill, who has a larger facility. They are limiting to 25 people in their larger building. East Fishkill's open by appointment only, by reservation only, which is what we would be. I don't know their capacity percentage, but I just know that it's a specific number in Fishkill. We would reopen, again, like I said, reservations. The other thing that we have the opportunity to do is, if people are willing to provide us, not required, but are willing to provide us proof of vaccination, we can increase the number of people stationed at a table. Masks are still required, but we can somewhat reduce the distance, because the CDC has been talking about fully vaccinated people interacting with other fully vaccinated people and lower social distancing requirements. They even make mention of not having to wear a mask. No way. We're going to still have everybody wearing masks.
Agree much with Dick. The most emails I get are regarding this. I didn't know I had so many active seniors in the 3rd ward until they were kept away. So I wholeheartedly agree with the 50% startup.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let me just say one thing to bring this. Go ahead.
You're very close to this. You see what's going on. You agree with the 50%?
Yeah, so I believe the supervisor was on the call today. I got on late, but the county executive's call today. So, you know, just to bring this thing full circle back to science, which is what we have been doing as a town. 2 weeks ago, we had over 1,000 active cases in Dutchess County. We had a 4.3% positivity rate. The number that you've heard me repeat over and over, and the supervisor has repeated over and over, the positivity rate, okay? That positivity rate now has dropped below 3%. We're at 2.5% right now. That's a 7-day rolling average, okay? And that's why we're at this juncture. I think we have done the right thing throughout this entire pandemic by looking at these numbers. There have been some adjustments made today by the state Department of Health and the governor's office. I am supporting reopening town hall, reopening our meeting spaces, reopening our senior center to the point that we are consistent with the New York State guidance and the CDC guidance, which I believe we are. Asking people about vaccinations and things like that can get a little tricky, especially if they don't want to tell you that information. So I think
voluntary.
Yeah, so I think that if we continue to follow the best practices as we have been following them, and if these numbers continue to go down, then we're going to be in a better position every 2 weeks when we meet. So that said, I don't have an objection to opening the senior center to 50%, as long as we maintain social distancing and maintain the other best practices set forth by the CDC.
Thank you.
All right, so if town hall is reopening on May 3rd, I was looking at a target of the following week for reopening.
I think May 3rd is what
I would open May 3rd.
Yeah, I would too. Why not open May 3rd? We've got.
Why not? Why not? Let's do it.
If the rest of town hall is going to open up May 3rd, why not?
I don't understand why you would not open up on May 3rd. Is there a reason?
Just an increased traffic into the building on the first week of our reopening. If we're still going to be screening people in for COVID, we're going to have kind of a flood of people when the building reopens. So to bypass that first week of that, then, you know.
Well, I think we're gonna have to deal with it, and we need to discuss that next. But I think that we have, you know, both internally and externally, you know, and we're going to have a resolution, you know, shortly on mental health, you know, mental health month. And I tell you, this is the number one thing I want to try to help with all of our mental health. I think, you know, and that's for our seniors most important. And we can figure out how to be flexible and address it. Of course, we have outdoors, you know, you have outdoor activities, so we'll be able to, I think, manage the inflow in and out, you know, at least we I think need to give it a try. If there's a problem, then Jessica, you come down and knock on my door and we'll deal with it in real time, you know, if the board agrees. But I think we give it a try. You know, we have a lot of people that want to see other people again, you know, so.
Agreed.
Want to do that. You know, my principal concern, you know, remains though of making sure that as Councilman Beal said, that we, you know, ensure that our COVID protocols are followed and that we continue with the science as we have, and also about the, you know, safety, the health and safety of our residents and especially our staff. You know, we have a, you know, ongoing, you know, situation where I think it's manageable because we managed it for so many months, you know, previous, but, you know, we still need to be conscious of, you know, those, you know, concerns. And, you know, not everyone is vaccinated yet in town hall. You know, I know the numbers. It's, you know, I don't want to, you know, talk about that, you know, right now. We can talk later, but, you know, we still have far from a majority that have been, you know, fully, you know, vaccinated. So, you know, we want to make sure that we keep the COVID protocols in place as far as I'm concerned.
I do think that we do have a mission to encourage folks to get vaccinated. I understand some individuals have personal medical decisions. I get it. I'm not a person that wants to tell you what to do, but I think that for the seniors, especially if they have not been vaccinated yet, the supervisor and I have an ability to fast track them to vaccination. So same for our town hall employees. If we can get that done, we'll be happy to assist.
Yeah. And by the way, I just got a text back from Nick D'Alessandro. He said the seniors are at 50%.
Okay.
They're set. Perfect. So that fits in with what we're proposing. I haven't heard back from Ozzy, but I think they're the same. Okay. So we'll do this and we'll let our, Barbara's here. I know she's already been planning based on assuming we do this, and a lot of discussion with myself. I think some of the rest of you on the board about the May 3rd planning board meeting, which is going to be, opened up, going to have it publicly live, at town hall, but with a lot of, again, the COVID protocol, including outdoor, seating, well, in order to avoid the, not to overflow on the 50% requirement. So I think that's underway. I think the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Assessment Appeal Board's not till later on in May. So we don't have to worry about that at this point in time. And I think other meetings, assuming we open, again, observing the 50%, if we go back to our consultant meetings and others, we'll live in town hall, we'll follow all the protocols that are in place. So thanks for the support on that. The next question really is one concerning maintaining, at least for the COVID period of time until we're free, is some sort of receptionist, since Cheryl no longer able to continue as she's gearing up for the summer camp season, which we are continuing to offer to our community. And I think Jessica is that well under control. So the question is, though, is what I strongly recommend is we continue to have, a receptionist that can take care of, especially the heavy traffic flow. I think that other than that, if there was a slower periods of time, then perhaps, the folks that man the other desks could handle it. But the real problem that I see is that if we open up and we don't have a desk, then people just come in and we are suddenly confronted at our windows with people that have not probably voluntarily, followed our protocols. So I would like us to consider continuing for, at least during the next couple months until things clear up, the front desk, hire a part-time person that could handle that if necessary. I think we're going to have to discuss later on in another meeting about the security protocols that are needed beyond, the COVID issues, and how we're going to manage flow of traffic within town hall going forward. Because I do have some concerns about that safety and security, but that we don't have to address at this point.
Well, the more I think about this person that sits there, it would seem to me that position would be COVID reimbursable as an individual that's ensuring COVID compliance within the town hall. I know that most of our other expenses that we've had for COVID were nominal and we didn't meet the threshold, but I think it might be worth looking at the possibility of that being a reimbursable expense. And if that's the case, then we can utilize whatever we spent on Cheryl being there and whatever we spend on another part-time person. This way it doesn't, it's not a money thing. You know what I mean?
Understood. And Jim Horan, do you know, we've had a lot of discussion with respect to what the initial funding, the 2.93 million, but is there any way that we could get that covered as a COVID, infrastructure related expense having?
I don't necessarily know that that's limited to infrastructure per se. So I think it can be, any kind of COVID related expenses
right.
would apply. I don't know what the county is doing with, their money, whether they're using it to, reimburse some of their COVID expenses. But, as I read the legislation originally, that was certainly one of the permissible purposes. one of the things that is still up in the air, and I'll have to look again to see if, supposedly the Department of Treasury is going to come out with some guidelines as far as, what are permissible expenses and what, if any, reporting requirements we may have. But the language of the legislation itself didn't specifically, say you had to, spend it, provide receipts for exactly what you spent it on.
Right.
So I think we have quite a bit of flexibility as to how the money is spent. The only thing that I think is definite is it's going to come in fiscal year 2021 and 2022.
Right.
So that's about the only thing that I know. It's not coming in one shot.
I was referring, Jim, to the PA, the FEMA Public Assistance category. Which,
Okay.
The county, we have an individual that's assigned to handle all that. The town, we weren't really meeting the threshold initially, but if we look at personal services for the purposes of maintaining COVID compliance, protocol compliance, if it's like $50,000 for, it could potentially meet a threshold for PA. That would be separate from the infrastructure rescue money.
I mean, do we have an ability to go back and revisit that? Because, in thinking about it, I don't know, some of the building, during COVID, and thinking about some of the things that we did, the building department spent a good bit of time, going around and investigating, complaints and things like that were related to shutdown. I don't know if, those were personal service, if personal service could now be, considered in that, that might be something that would have been, might be appropriate, but I don't know, some of Steve's guys.
Frederick and I, we put together a list, and actually it was quite extensive. And I think if you looked at it in its entirety, it was like $40,000 or $45,000.
Right.
So I think, we could go back to it. I was just suggesting, Bill, that there may also be another financial, pot of money that we could use, and the combination, we could address that and perhaps reimbursement for some of these other expenses that we had. That was my point. But I agree with you as far as the, the initial discussion that you raised. I think that's worthy. And Frederick and I see Frederick's on the phone on the call. He doesn't have to respond, but we can, revisit that and, report back to the board how we think that those monies could be allocated.
We can, put it in and let them say no. So it's always my thoughts.
So it's subject.
First they can say is no if you submit it.
It's yeah, you're right. Well, and that's what they did before. But I think now, with Congress, a different Congress, right, and a different perspective on it, it may now be able to get some of the things funded, which previously we weren't able because FEMA was under a different set of guidelines.
Right.
That's I think the real situation. So, what I'd like to do is to get your consensus for me to explore, trying to line up somebody. We'll continue to look for the money in the very short interim. We'll see if we can get some, volunteers, to fill in some of the gaps until, when we initially open, but hopefully, I have one or two people in mind. I'll discuss that with you, in executive session. And then Sarah, we'll talk about that. So anyway, I thank you. Let's move on. And Chris.
I just also wanted to mention that there's the New York Hero Act. So we're going to have to look at that. And I guess I haven't read it, but there may be something that we have to do in terms of coming up with a protective plan for our workers at Town Hall. So sorry, I'm just a little distracted.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So we may need to have somebody up front controlling traffic and keeping that documentation.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. Chris, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Last year, we had visited the highway garage and realized a lot of the improvements and renovations and repairs needed. And I'd like to bring that forward again. with COVID, a lot of things got pushed to the wayside, and this among them. The garage is in sorely need of repairs. And Tim, if you could comment on the current cost that you have down here?
Sure, let me try to share my screen again. We'll just do, can everybody see the highway graphic there?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
We tried to key certain improvements on the budget estimate that's in your packet to the site plan.
Right.
Can you see that? Can everybody see the site plan?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So items 1, 2, and 3 have pretty much been complete, which is great. We started making progress. We evaluated the site in terms of safety. We relocated the gas line. We demolished the overhang, which was this number 3, right, Steve? Steve's still on. And then we started to look, and Steve informed me during the demolition of the overhang that there was a roof area that was observed to be in need of repair. Steve, can you point to me where that was? Because I don't think we had that on our estimate.
Yeah, it is the gray section there that says Garage F.
Oh, over here.
It has a rubber membrane roof on it that has a lot of dry rot cracking in it. And if it's not leaking yet, it will be before long.
So, okay, so that's new information that we need to add on our budget. But basically, you know, we started huge with looking at a whole new facility at like $12 million. We got another kind of concept down to about 6. And then our final approach was to work with some of the mechanics with Mike Sheehan. And we kind of, you know, went through each area, and we've come up with this plan on our budget estimate to basically renovate some of the spaces to improve the working environment, which correlate to this area number 4. There's some shared space between a lounge and equipment, and we were trying to make like a formal conference room lounge that's a standalone space. These prices that we show on here were about a year old almost. So my recommendation would be, you know, if we want to revisit the scope list and kind of update it to keep things moving forward, we can certainly do that. Oftentimes as time goes by, new things pop up like this garage roof F there. And I don't know, you know, based on any input from Mike or the mechanics, if there's anything else on the list that would need to be added. But it wasn't all just, you know, we included this number 5, which was a new two-bay garage addition. We carried costs for a lift. We carried cost number 10, which is basically overall site improvements and drainage. But, you know, there's an old stormwater area to the back corner here that needed to be improved. So there's some site work included in there. And some of these items, again, town forces could tackle to keep our budget numbers down. Another option was a paint booth. I don't know if that's still on the request list or not. But we're
No, that's not on the request list.
We're going to add.
At least as far as I'm concerned, that's not on the list anymore.
Right. So that's the point is, if, you know, maybe again, this could be a workshop item. Or we could meet with Mike and the mechanics and just have a quick site meeting there to see if, again,
My concern, especially on the other side, Tim, is as you know, in the middle of the winter, you can't get the Vector truck out of the garage half the time without lowering the tires. And in the existing mechanic bay, those guys can't even use creepers. It's like they need all-terrain vehicles to use those things. I mean, those
So
are
proposal number 5, eliminate that issue?
Correct. That was the intent. It was going to be high bays. The Vector truck could fit in there, and then, you know, it'd be the lift on one side, and then kind of basically a new mechanic shop area.
Plus, you were going to skim coat the old bay as well, correct? Weren't you going to resurface that?
Yeah, it could be resurfaced, but I think the idea there was it just become more vehicle storage, you know, like a repurpose that space.
Okay. Yeah, I think again, like you mentioned, that we could put this into a workshop, and if you could revisit some of these prices, it's good to see. I was concerned when we first got it. I had forgotten that that gas line was still hanging up in the air. I'm glad to see that it was moved. Thank you.
We did that right away. I think, Mike, one of the first things he did, Chris, was.
Yeah, I had just had forgotten about it, and when I read it, I was like, "Oh God, that's not good."
Tim, are you and Mike able to prioritize these? You know, as far as, I know most of it needs to be done now, but is there a way as we look at that, you know, don't tell us now, but I think we should look at it. And as you know, one of my real concerns, aside from the safety of some of the buildings there, is also that retention pond, you know, and understanding what's really going on, you know, with that and getting it, you know, fixed up. So since it ultimately flows down into the village and into, actually, you know, spend a lot of money on their system of cleaning up water as it goes through on a natural basis, you know, so we need to look at it.
And that's what we tried to do, Supervisor, was the numbers on here were sort of an initial priority ranking. So,
okay. Well, I personally think that the site and stormwater management needs to be higher up, you know, than next to last on the list. You know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think this highway garage really needs to move to the front of things that the town needs to do, especially with with safety, as the supervisor has mentioned, but it really needs to be addressed and fixed as soon as possible.
Yeah. So I think, you know, while we're talking about it, you know, instead of just waiting, you know, we've been talking about workshops. So why don't we just address that right now? And particularly, is it 1 or 2 workshops? You know, since we're opening up in May, then we will now have the ability to hold a workshop live, you know, and it's subject to COVID and spreading around the table and people coming in. But I've talked with several of the board members, and I think, you know, there's interest in not just infrastructure in this, but maybe a couple other areas as well. But can we set aside at least one day or time, you know, in the May, you know, whether or not it's, we have had some, you know, workshops before substituting for a board meeting. Usually that's like the first meeting of the month that we've done that, but there's no set rule to that. We've also had it on Saturday. So I don't know what preference people would have. I'll accommodate the schedule, whatever it may take.
So
My
the
preference is to
8th
have it
is the
on.
Mother's Day weekend.
Okay.
What about the 15th or the 22nd?
15th is probably a good day. I can't make the 22nd, but certainly that's Saturday, Dick.
Yeah.
Maybe do it for 2 hours, 10 to 12, do a couple of hot topics. Certainly highway garage would be one of them.
If everybody agrees, I think, you know, we can do that on the 22nd. I'm okay with that. And
I thought the 15th was a better day for everybody.
okay. I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah,
But I
can't make
think the
22nd.
15th from 10 to 12 is better.
But Al, you can't make,
I can make the 15th. I'm just not available on the 22nd.
I got confused.
Right.
And 15th is fine for me. And one of the things that, you know, I'll get out some, as Bill said, you know, I've been thinking about infrastructure, and in connection with the monies that are, you know, coming out, we need to start talking about that and planning. So that's one of the items which I'd like to, you know, have on the agenda. Of course, that covers different infrastructure sort of things and how we, you know, do this. Also how we manage our funds, right? You know, and looking at A fund, B fund, DB fund, right? You know, is going to be one of these things too. So if the 15th is doable for, you know, everyone on here, then, and Bill, you can bring Sean, you know, if you want, you know, he can vote, you know, on that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at the 15th is a Saturday, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, what were you guys, I apologize, I was trying to deal with this issue here. You were talking about 10 a.m. to noon, is that right, or?
That's correct. Yes, 10 to noon.
Thank you.
Is that okay, everybody? Then we agree on having a workshop, which be, of course, open to the public. We get Mike Minor to tape it, but you know, let's plan on doing that in town hall then.
Tim, do you think you get some preliminary numbers for the going forward for this?
Tim?
sure, yep, we can work on that and have a
Thank you very
draft
much.
ready to review.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do that, and we'll get it on the schedule and, move ahead with that. And we'll get out some stuff hopefully even the week before, so there could be, thought given to it and
Do
proceeding.
we have larger size water and sewer maps that we could get?
Yeah, we do. Actually, Sandra's been putting on boards and I think we have enough for each member of the board for the water, sewer, and
Okay, perfect. Because the little maps, my eyesight is dwindling daily, so they're impossible to see.
Understood. Well, we'll get that, and I'll talk with Tim, and we'll make sure what we have, but we have all that, and then we can also, blow it up, bigger, hopefully.
Very much.
So we'll move ahead. Anything else, Chris, that you wanted to raise with respect to the highway?
I just, that covered it, and you were spot on with the rainwater and the retention ponds as well.
Okay. So we'll move ahead to our resolutions at this time. Resolution, the number one on the list, as we said, table that, and then maybe we'll get a chance to talk about those things a little bit later, not today, but next meeting or so. And the next item is Resolution 2021-64, and this is a resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the construction of improvements to and reconstruction of various parks in and for the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $750,000, and authorizing the issuance of $750,000 bonds of said town to pay the cost thereof. You'll recall we had this on the list last time, but at the request of Councilman Casella, which was a very good request, to kind of break out by numbers. Tim Moot and Tom Harvey have done that, which is in your packet, page 31. If we have a motion to get this on the table, then we can discuss it. Then we can then vote on it later. But I'd like to at least just get it on the table at this point in time. So let's just discuss it. Tim, you have it up there, so we can just look at that. And this is what they broke out. And as you will see, and Tim can explain it some more, a major portion of this is related to the Robinson, field repairs, outfield repair, bathroom. So Tim, if you want to just briefly run through it, and Steve, I think, is still here, so he could comment too.
Sure. So we just broke it up into two categories, green being the funding available and red being our estimated cost. Some of this is based on bid, but you take the total amount of the bond. There's some CDBG reimbursement funding that'll get applied to Robinson. And then we're looking at our out-of-pocket costs. If you recall, we created a budget number to resurface the outfield. It's currently a grass outfield beyond the, can everybody see that, or do I need to zoom in a little more?
I can see it.
So we had the resurfacing of the outfield. That was a pretty big undertaking. It's natural grass now, but we were going to extend the rubberized surface to the outfield fence. There's some crack repairs. We talked about that the last couple meetings. That was a $9,800.
That was approved already.
Yeah.
Yep, it was approved. That's the one that took signed off on.
Right.
Hopefully have that contract back.
And
That's
again,
right.
we approved it up to 10,000, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're just accounting for that in here to capture all the costs. We bid the bathrooms, the ADA bathrooms, and the low bidder was $338. That's going to be a later resolution. And then with that bid, the low bidder had an alternate for the water service extension on site there for $28,100. So if you look at all the out-of-pocket costs, it's $647,900. And then, basically you're offsetting this cost with the CDBG funding and then the remainder from the $750. And then we just tried to do a similar exercise for Spook Hill, and showing basically we have a remainder of 193 and applying that to Spook Hill. There's committee funds that's in the income column, if you will.
Those are donations that, the Spook Hill, Friends of Spook Hill have received to date.
And then the CDBG funding, which again is a reimbursement, and the budget monies for this negotiated settlement for the recreation fee dispute. And then the expenditure column.
We've already received that 35. I think it may be parked in Parkland Trust right now.
Okay.
So Tim, let me ask you a question about the funding here. So, we're doing the bathrooms, we're doing the parking lot over there at Spook Hill. How much does the 4,000, 100,000, and 35,000 cover? Do we need more money to finish that project? And that's why there's an additional 50 plus 120,000? Or is that to do some of the other work where they were talking about the track and a few other things we're looking at?
Yeah, so these are not all related to Spook Hill. So, just looking at Spook Hill expenditures, it's about 170,000, right?
Right, but is that so does the first $139,000 in the left-hand column, does that get the bathrooms done and the parking lot done? Is that enough money there to do that phase of the project?
Yes, that's the intent.
I think there's $20,000 more that's needed because the 35,000, the 4,000 were not dedicated for that parking lot and that building use. Their intention, from what I recall, because I also received some of the checks, was for other stuff like playground.
Right, those are generic. Yeah,
That's correct, Supervisor. That's correct. 100,000 from the county is going toward the first phase project that's happening now.
Right. So, for example, Al, if you took the 35,000 and 4,000, you could perhaps use that toward, fixing up, the picnic area, some of the playground, equipment or some other things there, which is what they intended it to be when it was requested for us to.
But the 100,000 is just specifically dedicated to the parking lot and the bathrooms?
Phase one, what we're calling phase one, which, by the way, I was out there today, with legislator Cavaccini, and it's well underway. The crew is working on it, and putting the footings in for the concrete pouring and so forth. So that is moving along now. Looks good, actually. In fact, while we were out there today, we bumped into residents that are very excited about it, also asking when we're going to get new playground equipment. So that's why I have some money here for playground phase one. When we look at for universal access type of playground plus some other stuff too. So that was the idea, but they're very positive. Residents are excited. We had one, I may have mentioned it, one of our residents who's been using the park since the 70s, whose husband passed away in the state trooper, and just in the process of meeting with me, wrote out a check for $100 because she was so excited that we're making some progress on Spook Hill. So it's very complimentary, that a lot of compliments we're starting to get.
All right, Tim, go ahead.
Well, that was pretty much all. So then there's other line items in there.
So we have a couple in there for Carnworth, and what's the other town park? Is that over for Castle Point? What is that?
Determined. I think, there was talk about putting another playground at another location.
Remember our last discussion, we had said, okay, for other, councilwoman, councilman, to look at, is there some other playground that you would like to have enhanced, improved upon, since we had focused on a couple already. So that was the kind of the budget, amount that just roughly estimated, maybe over the amount, but that's why it's in there. I thought, then Councilman Beal or Councilwoman Bettina or, somebody could, make another recommendation within that $750,000 number we had proposed.
Why wouldn't the last $100,000 come out of Parkland Trust?
Well, I think the idea, Al, was not to further deplete that at this point in time. To hold it in reserve for some other things based on what we would discuss. Because again, the idea is and we can have flexibility. I mean, we're not necessarily tied to this within that 750,000, but I think the key thing is we wanted a breakout so we could look at approximately so we could get it on, the referendum, get the 1 month, schedule in there like we are with the other, proposals.
And if you bond it for this, how many years can you bond it over?
Jim?
I believe the bond resolution is 15 years.
15 years? Okay.
Let me pull it up. It is.
Oh, well, he's looking at that, Al.
Yeah, that's fine. So just, yeah, later on. It's fine.
I read a bunch of the 15 years, section 3, 15 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, then do I have a motion on resolution 2021?
Should be a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, okay. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, Councilman Beal,
Who moved it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's been moved and seconded.
Motion. When you enter it. So I was calling for a motion, so do I have a motion for 2021-64?
I'll move it.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
On the question, this $750,000 bond will be specifically for park improvements. Each item that we just discussed within that spreadsheet will have to be addressed specifically, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so this is,
Well, no.
Oh, no.
So it's the bond is for park improvements. So, to the extent you get to those,
Yeah.
you get to those, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, what Councilman Beal is saying is that by approving the resolution today, we're not approving those specific items. That will come back.
Yes, that's correct.
okay. The reason why I bring that up is because we have a number of playgrounds that are included, and God forbid we have a major problem in a park where we need to fund a capital improvement for safety purposes. I just want to make sure that we have the flexibility within this bond, if we choose to put a playground on the back burner and correct something that might be more important at that moment. That's all.
Right. You have that flexibility.
I think subject to, the couple things we do have to decide, the bathroom facility, the crack in the field, but yes, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
So we have motion and second. Is there a second?
I did it.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
A roll call vote.
No, in favor. So Mr. Clerk?
Councilman Beal,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bettino,
Aye.
Councilman Phillips,
Aye.
Councilman Casella,
Yes.
and the Supervisor Thirst.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Do we know on this 15-year term, we're still at record low rates here, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why we're doing this also. When folks ask us, we're taking advantage of the lowest interest rates historically we've seen, and we know that's not going to last.
Right, we expect them to go up, so now's the time to take advantage of the rates.
And our continued very good bond ratings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do have a number of items coming off our balance sheet over the next couple of years too, so that'll help us as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Okay, next item is Resolution 2021-71. This is a resolution declaring May as Mental Health Month in the town of Wappinger. As I said earlier, mental health is extremely important for everyone. We did get the request from NAMI, Mid-Hudson. We've approved resolutions in the past, and I recommend that we approve this one again, and also figure out some ways that perhaps we could be helping more with mental health throughout the town. So,
Sure. I'll move. I mean, obviously, as you said, this is a very challenging time for folks dealing with this pandemic, dealing with stresses that many didn't think they'd ever have to deal with, losing jobs, losing livelihoods. And for us to pause for a moment and make sure that we recognize how important mental health is, I would have the honor to move this.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2021-72. This is a resolution awarding the contract for Robinson Lane Park Sanitary Disposal System and ADA compliant restroom. Now, this is, you had this before you. This is what we've discussed before as far as the bid. Tom, I'm sorry, Jim Horan, you want to just discuss it, then Tim Moot can.
Yeah, so this is a proposal to award the bid to the lowest bidder.
Landscape.
Yep, and so CPL checked them out. They're a responsible bidder. They've got a pretty good track record. In this bid, there is an additional alternative for water work associated with the project. And they were actually, well, it was second lowest bidder on that, but, taken together, they're the lowest bid on both. The CPL recommends that in addition to the base bid, that the town board award the add alt number 1, the only one in here. So taking those two together, the total contract amount would be $36,100. They were kind enough to extend the bid for 45 days. And so this is on here for the town board's approval and awarding the contract.
We have a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-73. It's resolution appointing the certified public accountants to audit the accounts and reports of the town and to provide various accounting services. Frederick, are you still on? You recall, while Frederick's trying to, I guess, unmute, that we did have interviews, and I think the general consensus was to approve the accounting firm of RBT CPAs. Frederick, do you like to make some more comments?
Yes, so this was discussed at length during the last meeting's executive session, and the board agreed to extend.
Well, we didn't agree. we discussed our opinions on the various applicants. So today is to agree or disagree, I think.
Right.
So one of the concerns that some members had had previously relative to good accounting procedures, if we use the same firm every year, how are we complying with good accounting practices? I am satisfied by the response provided by RBT, by Linda Hannigan, who is the audit director, that a different individual from that firm will be auditing the town of Wappinger, and there will be a rotational aspect to this moving forward so that we don't inadvertently have the same individual looking at the books on an annual basis. So I am satisfied with their response to our concerns, and I will move that we continue their service.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you.
Item is Resolution 2021-74. This is a resolution appointing groundskeepers and building department. This is a topic that we were spending a fair amount of time on earlier. So any further discussion with respect to that? Jim, you want to add anything with respect to this particular resolution?
So with respect to this resolution, I know there was some discussion about making some changes to limit this to the creation of 2 new positions. The one, I guess the one question that I have, this resolution contemplates 4 new positions. However, it does not contemplate filling the line that was originally budgeted. So I see that some names were added to at least a more recent version. But Steve had sent over some names.
I gave us the names.
Yeah, it's my understanding, Jim, that we now have basically 3 people, 1 which would go to the previously allocated line, and then 2 would be new individuals. Is that not correct?
Yeah, so I guess that's my understanding as well. Frederick, what is the budget line for the individual, the position that's already been budgeted?
So that would be budget line A.7110.121.
Okay, so what I would, on the resolution, Joe, 1 and 2, on the resolves, 1 and 2 would remain the same. And then with respect to number 3, amend 7110.0124 to be 121.
Yep, it's done.
And then as far as
Delete
8,
number 4. Delete number 4, right?
delete 4.
Right.
And then on the budget transfers at the bottom, delete 120, the addition of 124 and 125.
Okay, done.
Okay.
Okay, so everybody got that?
Sure.
So a motion to amend the resolution would be in order.
Yeah,
I'll move.
Okay,
And a vote on the resolution as amended.
all in favor of the amendment?
Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we didn't have a vote on the amendment. First, a vote on the amendment.
That's what I'm voting on right now.
Okay.
The amendment.
I think we had a first and a second. Bill was the first. I think Israel was the second on that one.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions on the amendment as amended? It's approved. Now let's vote on the full resolution. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the amended. Go ahead.
I'll second, but we got to put names in on the resolution.
And now they're already on.
I don't have that version.
So
I'll read them in the record. We have a Gregory Wilson, a James J. Berlinski, and an Earl Patterson.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay? Is that correct, Steve? Are you there?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I made the motion. We're looking for a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions, seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-75, Proclamation of Asia Pacific American Heritage Month. You know, we prepared this resolution to recognize our Asian American residents and others. You know, as you know, we continue to see a lot of challenges in this area. We actually I've been addressing a number of concerns of our Asian American residents. There have been some minor incidents. Also, the supervisors of Fishkill and East Fishkill and I have been meeting on this, and we've visited. My wife actually attended a meeting of the human, what do they call it, Bill? The Human Affairs Relations Commission.
The Human Rights Commission for the county.
Thank you. They had a long, I think, 2-hour program the other day with a lot of concerns from people within the community. So I wanted to have this out there showing our support, for, not just Asian folks, Asian Pacific, Americans. And I'd like to have a motion to approve this resolution.
Certainly, I agree that awareness needs to be increased. And obviously, Supervisor, you have made it a mission to better diversify this town from the perspective of creating a more welcome atmosphere. And I've seen that and experienced it, and I appreciate it. I will move the resolution.
I'll second it.
And adding to your comments, Bill, I think with the strongest support of this board, we've made some good progress. We have more, I think, to be done, going forward. But we really have done a lot, and our staff and also some of our committees have all been contributing to that as well. So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. And I think, Joey, with respect to both of these resolutions, with Mental Health Month and Asia Pacific American Heritage Month, would you prepare, a press release on behalf of the board, or acknowledging what the comments are that we've made and get that out there?
Yes, sir. I will work on that this week.
Okay, thank you. And also, I do want to thank Joey and Joe Paoloni for working with me on actually the resolution that we've just approved. So good teamwork on that as well. So I thank you all, everyone, for this support. Did we decide that we were going to have a resolution with respect to the mechanic position?
I think we're gonna have further discussion on that.
Discussion. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't overlook it. So at this point in time, but that's certainly fine with me. So the next resolution is to approve the correspondence log of April 26th, 2021. So
I move we approve the correspondence log.
Okay, do we have a second? This is resolution 2021-76.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So now we'll move into executive session, I think, to discuss an acquisition issue as well as some, personnel matters. I think the first one I'll have Jim Horan will be there, and I'll also invite Michael Archer in, and then I'll call others as necessary to come in.
Can we just handle a couple items here before we go into executive session?
I'm gonna go there too.
Just relative to just a couple things here. If I can go first, I'd appreciate it.
Go ahead, sir.
So since this town has adopted May as Mental Health Awareness Day, or month, I should say, I just want to make sure that folks understand that Dutchess County Helpline is available 24/7 for any individual that needs to speak to someone from a mental health perspective. 485-9700. That's 845-485-9700. You can text that number also. That's the Dutchess County Behavioral Community Health division that handles mental health crises. So folks that may need assistance or want to talk to somebody, it's 485-9700. The other thing is the FCC just announced that we're now moving toward a national 3-digit number for mental health, which is going to be 988, similar to the 911 protocol. It'll be 988. So that was just announced. That will begin July 16th of 2022. But as part of the changes of phone numbers, believe it or not, as of April 24th of this year, we now are supposed to be dialing 10 digits for everyone. We're supposed to include the area code and the 7 digits when we're calling people. That's a change that has been made by the FCC. So not that we dial many people's phones anymore, but they're going to the 10-digit format instead of the 7-digit format. 7 digits will still work for now, but even in the same area code, they want you to use the home area code. So that's interesting. Every 6 months or so, I bring up the Lehigh landscaping contract for the Sergeant Palmatier Memorial Park. It's already budgeted. I just need authorization from the town board to execute that spring contract for the Sergeant Palmatier Memorial Park. And I would appreciate the support of the town board on that. I will make the motion to approve it. And I will
That's with the
provide-
$5,000 on the budget bill?
Yeah, it's within the budget parameters, and we approve it, and I'll send a copy of it to the town clerk's office.
I'll
I
second.
second that motion.
Okay, your motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there abstention? Seeing none, motion passed. Hey, Bill, reminder,
Yes.
you and I need to meet on the further design for the parking lot and that landscaping, right?
Yes, we have had some productive conversations with Anthony from Old Hopewell Commons regarding a gravel parking area behind the park there. So we'll be talking about that. I want to thank the residents that came out to the meeting that I had at my firehouse to discuss the facts about the Gasland Petroleum application. There was a lot of misinformation out there about that process. I wanted the folks to understand that there is a public hearing on Monday, May 3rd at 6 p.m. at the town hall. We had about 100 folks show up for that. And I appreciate the residents that did come out. It was an outdoor meeting. That's how we kept it COVID safe. And especially want to thank Barbara Roberti, who was present virtually and was able to basically answer questions and discuss the process by which applications work through the planning board. So I greatly appreciate Barbara Roberti taking time out of her weekend. I know that she had family coming over in the evening, but she made time to answer residents' concerns. And sometimes when residents have concerns before the planning board, it's always kind of awkward when people stand up at public hearings and speak to the planning board and they stare back at them, instead of there's no back and forth during those public hearings. So this at least gave residents an opportunity to have a little back and forth and be heard with their concerns. So I greatly appreciate that. Coming up at the workshop meeting or a future meeting, I had discussed previously a food truck idea for the town to engage in. I've gotten some additional information on how we can facilitate a number of food trucks at a specific time, maybe on a weekly basis in a specific area that I think could be exciting for the town to host. And I don't want to get into it right now because we don't have a lot of time, but I will discuss that at a future workshop, give you the idea other towns are doing and how we can make it work here in the town of Wappinger. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have 2 comments. So number one, at the workshop we're going to have on the 15th, I'd like the board to consider having a workshop with the seniors. I know there's a number of programs out there and things that we'd like to talk about. I'd like to hear some of their issues, concerns. I want to make sure that we can work together with them, with Jessica, and make sure that, we continue a good relationship. So I'd like to ask the board to consider that as one of the workshop items. The other thing I'd like to, and this is for Steve Frazier, and I'm sorry, Steve, for pounding you all the time here and asking you about this, but when can we get the town signs up? The new signs we had, printed up. We'd like to get some out of some of the fields and stuff. We have a number of residents asking. One of the new town signs going to go up. I know we have them in stock now. Just looking for a date that, we can get some of those signs out there. So if you can comment on that, I'd appreciate it. Steve?
Well, as I stated in the email, when I get the auger put together and the part arrived today, we'll start on those. Some of the signs that are going into hard-mounted areas have already been put up, attached to walls or fencing. Those are up, but the ones on the posts, when the auger's in service, then we'll begin those.
So specifically, I'm talking about Regency. So I was hoping that you could help us out there a little bit when you get an opportunity. But It's one area where, residents are, would like to see new signs up there, and I know we have them in stock, so just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we have I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss some personnel-related matters and.
I'll make the motion to go on executive session.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Tom Barr will admit the key folks, the board, and Moran, also Michael Archer, into that meeting for discussions. Then we'll have Sarah come back in for HR. Okay?
Can we take a 2-minute recess?
Yeah, 5 minutes maybe.
5-minute recess? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.